Yeah.
5, 4.
Well, what's the crack, everybody? You're all very, very welcome to a very, very special edition of Buckshot. This, of course, has become a bit of a tradition at this stage where I think we're 3 years into properly wrapping up the year. And I know you look at all sorts of BBC ones and UTV and ITV and RTE, the whole lot of them will have some sort of nice polished review. Well, if you're anyway used to Buckshot and how things go around here, this one will be a bit rough around the edges. We'll cover it as best we can, but it's kind of just to give you a bit of a slap and just so you can stay awake throughout all that turkey and stuff and that you're going to be eating throughout all of this. Good stuff for your ear holes, but there's no better man to bring on board. The man who knows everything about everything. Probably not as much about hardware and stuff like that, but that's where I'll kind of shore up the whole thing. But I'm I'm normally a guest on his podcast more than anything else, but in this instance, as for the last 2 years, keeping up to tradition, our 2022 review, I'll be joined by the very, very smexy Mr. Gordo Rochford. Welcome on board, brother.
Hey, happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Hanukkah, and all the rest of it.
Oh, yeah, don't forget them, lads. You get in trouble if you don't say that. Happy Hanukkah.
There we go. I'm spinning the dreidel as we speak, just to keep it on the level. So you're well. You're looking well. You're looking fly.
Thanks, man. I'm in me sleeveless gilet because the fucking cold is going through me bones. And you'd think it'd be warmer with all the extra padding, but no, it's not.
No.
It's fucking freezing out here in the west.
Yeah, I get it. I know we're down in the south, but it ain't like American scale. The west is more or less the south here. We would fit inside one small state, so it's not like nobody flies to Tipperary for the winter. Like
yeah. I'm summering in Youghal or whatever.
Yeah, no, it'll be just as cold and wet down there.
Yeah.
You're and you have a nice little bit, like myself, not too unlike myself, you have a nice little bit of salt and pepper coming on the old beard mustache scenario there.
It's all coming in. Like I shaved the head. I gave up on the hair during the lockdowns because I couldn't get to the hairdressers, and I'd be fucked if I was trying to piece together that wispy shit man that I had going on. So I just went full baldy, full Joe Rogan, and grew this lad out now, and he's nice and salt and peppery, getting a bit matey. They're turned from pubes now into real hair, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
And,
you're going to get yourself one of those beard straighteners for Christmas, the ones where lads just...
I already have one. It's like a hot
yeah.
one. Yeah. Between that now and uncurling the hairs on my back and my arse and my balls, I tell you, I'm like a model here. Like a fucking,
I just imagine...
what's your man's name? Vidal Sassoon would be jealous of me.
I'm just imagining, those ghillie suits that lads wear when they're out hunting, like,
But it's just orange pubes on me. That's what it is. Just a ghillie suit of orange pubes.
Well, for anybody who isn't, who's swinging in and hasn't been here in a while, I went the opposite during all of the carry-on, and my hair has grown out, but for the shortest period ever. It is, if you're brand new to the mullet, you're like, I'm very excited about the idea of Tom having a mullet. It's luxurious. In the immortal words of Cat Williams, it is luxurious, but it's going to the bin. It's going to the bin in the next few days as we're recording this. By the time you get to your ear holes, it may be already gone.
Oh fuck!
But
you wouldn't plait it up and give it to some child with leukemia or something like that, would you?
I don't think it's of that high quality. My wife did that a couple of years ago, and because she has high quality hair, she comes from a family of people with extremely good hair. I don't think mine is of the quality that I don't think the child would most likely give it back, and just go, it's okay, it's all right.
Can you imagine getting
I'm gonna go Gordo
child
here.
with leukemia, just be like, no, actually, you're grand. Disneyland,
like
maybe? It's like, I gave you my hair. You fucking ain't great.
I would imagine like maybe a couple of wisps might be good for maybe lads who make their own, like, flies for fishing, just to tie it in there to maybe to look
That's
like
what
a...
it is. But if you're using manny hair, what kind of shit are you going to be catching? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's going to be rough. Inedible fish like pike or something, like some rough bastard with curled in teeth, some gnarly, spiky backed fish isn't pretty.
One that comes with a flash lamp on the front of him. It's on so you can see on site in the nighttime.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
You said I know a lot about a lot of things except for hardware and stuff like that. You're right. It's hard, man. It's hard to grow up and be an adult. I've been fixing sinks, and I bought a shed, and I've been doing all sorts of buying. Tentatively buying tools to fix little jobs, and that I don't have to call a man to come fix it. Got a pressure washer. Did the whole house. There's like weird red shit that comes up out of the cement on some houses. You ever have that?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah.
cleaned all that off the house. I was like, yeah, bah! Like writing fucking willies and dicks and stuff in the
Yeah,
red
of
stuff on the
course.
cement. It's just such crack. So like, yeah, I'm starting to get more
I said it.
westerly.
I said it more so in jest to draw you out on your hardware
Oh, of course.
adventure.
I'm
I knew full well that you'd started down the road, and it is an addictive one. But your your level of detail when it comes to to for all the listeners, Gordon and myself had a
you gonna
two.
out me now, are you?
I have to a back
Go
and
on,
forth
fuck.
conversation on hose fittings. That
Yeah,
must have lasted into 50 messages back and forth. This man,
I'm a
when I
very
say he
particular
doesn't leave a
man.
stone unturned when it comes to products he buys, like this is why if you have never listened to those conspiracy guys before, you can trust that when that man has gone after that fucking info, he has fucking dug it out of the ground.
Yeah.
There
Autistic
is no,
levels of detail. We're talking like
it's
everything is a special interest. That's what it is, man.
there was
But if you're
no
gonna do,
half.
so why buy? Why buy it twice? I got a beautiful hose. Got some hose lock fucking connections, all this stuff. Where I'm going to work on getting an outside tap in the new year. Imagine that. Sorted.
Phenomenal,
Yeah, man.
phenomenal. I'm
Moving
so
along.
proud of you.
Thanks, man.
It's going to be an adventure that I
Built all this
can't wait.
myself. Built all this stuff myself now, and got all this stuff here. Like, so it's we're good.
That's
We're getting there.
it's a lot better than most. They would bow out and just call the man.
Yeah,
That's what they do. They
it's-
call the man.
I don't want to be.
But
I don't want to be going drilling holes and filling them in again with that fucking what's it called, plasticine or what Marla or whatever it's called. You put it on with
but
you buy the Marla in a tube. It's like a cake, like the cake mix.
we'll go with the branded one, polyfiller. We'll
That's
go
it,
with that.
that's the one,
Yes,
that's the one, yeah, yeah.
Here we go. We'll go
Oh
with that.
fuck! Let me sit down there, though.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Do you know what? Vulnerability is a good thing to show,
Yeah,
Gordo. You
fuck it, man.
can't be just toxic levels of masculinity back and forth here. Like just
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Small bit embarrassed, but you know what? You learn every day's a school day.
every day's a school day. Exactly. And this is why I bring you on board, because while I could do a review or whatever, I would just be like a fella shoveling light into dark corners, hoping for the fucking best, like here. But in all reality, I have the reason why I bring you on board is not only because I like hanging out with you, but the stuff that interests me, you will have the actual facts on it. Whereas I will stand there going, I'd say 'tis a thing that is like so. It's as well to bring a man who knows. This is me calling a man. This is me calling the man.
Yeah, can you get the man over here to tell me what happened with the bitcoins? What happened with the bitcoins
Exactly.
there? I do like I'm like a dog at a rag. Like I do try to not let go of those things. I'd follow them all the way through, and I'd be tipping away. Like it's a long time sitting on the toilet getting piles.
Course.
Going through Twitter.
You've done that for
threads
us.
these piles are for you.
This
You know,
this episode has been sponsored by E45.
hemorrhoids, bring value home. E45 is a moisturizer. I think you were thinking of
Is it?
Anusol, or what's it
I-
called? You can use E45 in your arse, but for a very different reason. What's the other one called?
Listen, I
Preparation
had no
H.
idea.
Preparation
Preparation
H. That's the one.
H.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew there was a letter in there somewhere.
Yeah. Going home with 2 tubes of E45 going, it's not doing that. My fucking arse I can't keep the shit in my arse. It's too slippy. They have to do the full pipe, man. I've done it. I've been there, you know. So I'm getting piles looking at all this stuff, like looking at the fucking Twitter threads now that we're back on Twitter and Elon's cool, made it cool again. Getting into Reddit stuff, and it's very hard to find stuff online now, especially like not just conspiracy type stuff, but the way the lines have been blurred now, Tom, between like real life and the shit we used to call like wild conspiracy theory, like fucking crazy shit that doesn't sound real, and you're able to make a whole podcast about it and shout and laugh and joke and talk shite like and come up with mad wild theories. Now it's like the news is that.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck happened? The simulation started going off on its own storyline, like you're playing Red Dead Redemption, and then the next thing aliens come down in a fucking spaceship and start shooting all the cowboys. You're like, this isn't part of the storyline. The game has a mind of its own. So
But this is
like even
this
this morning, I was fucking pushing out a fucking a sweet corn submarine, and I found it officially JFK was shot by the CIA. Like the
Officially.
CIA had a part in officially, according to these files that were released, that they had a part in his assassination. And like, why is that not like breaking news? You're right, everybody. You're dead right. You're right for 70 years. Like, I don't know why it's not out there. You know, so the fucking
It's because Liver
walls
King
of
is on
reality-
steroids. That's why. That's why.
I'm so disappointed in him. It's like, come on, bro.
There's a. Why does your vein have a vein? What's
yeah.
that?
I definitely thought he had that ab. You know, you get this like muscle sculpting underneath to go subdermally, and they carve out your muscles to give him that like I haven't had a drink of water in 9 days type of abs.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, it's just all mad HGH and like 15 grand a month's worth of fucking juice pops. You know.
But that's why there's no big story about JFKs, because of stuff like that. Or what did Andrew Tate say the other day about a woman? You're like, what?
It's
What?
there's too much stuff. There's too
Stuff.
much stuff, and a lot of people, and I find it with my audience as well, like polarizing. You have an opinion about something, they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you said that." It's like, do you know me? Like, this is what it's always been. So the world, like we're standing like the Easter Island heads on the fucking, you know, on the medium height mound of like acceptable truth, and then the fucking wind is blowing soil and sand in on top of us, and slowly we're being buried like inch by inch by inch, just being buried. And the truth is a hard thing to grab onto. You're watching the news going, what? I watched the news, like we're going to talk about later on. I was watching Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and going like, this is very convenient because Ghislaine Maxwell's trial is going on at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's looking at that shit. It's just like, if I'm seeing something that's being promoted on the news, I'm going, right,
What
else
else?
is going on? Fucking peel back
Yeah,
the
yeah.
flaps and have a look at what's going on. You know, it's a very hard time to have a head. I've been saying that on social media over the last couple of weeks, like going, we're coming into Christmas time now. Get the switch off. Have a look at what happened over the last year. We got out. We got let out to play after 2 years of being stuck in the fucking cupboard under the stairs. How mad has the world got? Do you know?
Yes, this is it, and it would seem a lot of it has spun in a very strange way, but it's almost accepted now. We're just accept things. Oh well, the price of living, and you're like, well, fuel has come down, so why is bread still fucking 4 times the price that it was? You know, but we're to accept all this shit. And but
Petrol went
if
up
anybody,
for 2 months, and now butter is
Yeah.
€1 more forever. You're like, what?
and you're like,
You don't
but the
even put
cows
any
are just
petrol in
over
the
there.
butter.
The cows are just over there.
Yeah.
Bring me that cow. I'll get my own butter, thank you.
Same
So,
cows, same tits. What's the fucking crack here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
weird,
yeah.
man.
It's not like the cow's agent has gone, well, you know, we're going to...
The cost of living for the cows has gone up. Well, the fucking price of cows, nuts, and all. You know, we farmers in the family, and the price of stuff shot up, and then kind of went down again half. But like, look, it's what I've been saying. This social malaise, the dissolution of like a fiat economy. All the Buckshot people are all like, "Oh fuck's sake, this fucking lad." Like the dissolution of a fiat economy. You know, the crumbling empire, the crumbling ideological empire that is like Western society.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to show its cracks. It's got pyrite in the blocks, Tom, and
It has.
that shit is fucking grumbling now. And it looks lovely from the outside. And it's all painted and it's grand, but you wouldn't spend the winter in it. You wake
No.
up and the house would be down around your ears. So again, very hard to have a head. I hope everybody that's listening to this show has had a great year. Some of the news stories we'll be talking about are slightly odd or morose or, you know, weird. But like, it didn't happen to you, so it's grand. So it's grand.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, fucking hell, man! Like, what a year for news! What a year for mad shit! I literally in the summertime, I was waiting for the fucking the mothership to peek out through the clouds and Randy Quaid to be like, "It's me, boys! I'm back!" Like, I thought Independence Day shit was going to happen this summer. That's how.
But it was that acceptable. And do you know what? It would, to say that, like, you know, all the footage that's come from all these, and, you know, the Navy has come out with it
Yeah.
saying, oh yeah,
Tic
like
Tac.
literally every day we're looking at jokes flying around. We've no idea what they are. And in fact, they couldn't possibly be human. So, like, sure, that's the way it is. And all of a
Like-
sudden, you know, there's some Amber Heard a shit on a bed.
Yeah.
Do you know, you're like, well, that's way more interesting.
It's
You
way
can-
more
you-
interesting.
Come back to me when you have an alien. I know even then I mightn't even have a look because the sexy pirate is over here and that's what we're talking about. You know?
Yeah.
So therein lies the oddity. There's just so much stuff. And I suppose we're in such I guess there was always a gossipy world and a pop culture world. The pop culture shite is just will hide anything. Once you make enough of a noise around the pop culture thing, it'll cover any serious thing that people
Yeah.
should be looking at. You know what I mean?
A lot of
But
creators as well trying to get their eyeballs on for money, and they're willing to say anything. Like it's. Are we living in the age of too much information? Probably. Are we going to talk
Probably.
about that information for the next 2 hours? Definitely. To add to the pie. Right, here you go, lads. Here's some more bullshit.
So, if you are aware of how we've done it in other years, we've made it very simplistic. We, much like every other show, I haven't come up with any new medium of how to deliver this. We will do it on a monthly basis as the year has gone by. Now, you'll probably be shocked each time you go, Jesus Christ almighty, because that feels like 4 years ago. No, this is all from 2022. Because even as I was researching and going back through it, I was like, Jesus Christ, that feels like, because so much water has passed by.
So
Jesus.
much.
Every
stuff.
month, it's like effort. I love it. Jesus, I can't. So
Like Declan Early. Stop the world and let me off.
100%.
Like it's fucking happening, bro.
I by the way, that man hugged me. I just telling you, there'll be a lot of jealous people hearing that, but that man gave me a giant hug. When I came
Wow.
off stage at the 3 Arena during the summer, he was that excited by my performance, and I gotta say, it was a nice hug. He's a lot smaller than you would think in real life.
I wouldn't say he'd hug everybody now. You've probably done really well.
A few people stood around, kind of went, "That's a moment, Tom. You need to take that one to the grave."
You gotta
That's a
Ernie,
moment.
You gotta Ernie the Nernie. That's not
Yeah.
you don't get that shit for free, bro.
You got to Ernie the Nerdy.
That's
Oh,
all
my
it is.
Lord. So, that being said, the way we will progress is on a monthly basis. And where do you start? But January. Are you happy enough, Gordo? Are you happy enough?
Let's look at this.
We've massaged each other enough. I suppose we don't want to give away the farm too early on throughout this, but
I mean,
there's
we're
enough
not Charlie Brooker here. Like, let's let's keep the hair inside the hat. But it just seems like a couple of these I've been reading over them over the last couple of days since you sent me the list, and fuck, it feels
Yeah.
was that this year? What the fuck? Has that not been always the way it was? But yeah, we go January 1st, I guess.
So, I mean, again, there's any amount, and there'll be people shouting at their phones, whatnot, going, "Why didn't you talk?" We can't get to all of it, or we will literally have to call around to your house and talk to you for 2 days. So, and we also have to keep it somewhat entertaining too, because to a certain degree, there are fairly morose things, as Gordo said, that we could dig deeply into. But we're both comedians at heart, so we want to have a bit of a poke around. So, in January, the one that stuck out for me, Gordo, was the Prince Andrew and how he was stripped of his military titles. Now, the big thing with me, obviously, this fucker has never so much as picked up a fucking a dinner knife, let alone a fucking gun, to deserve a single fucking medal that was on his chest, like just like somebody, But at the same time, the oddity of this one for me was that he was singled out. Like, we all know he was, he had his, I suppose, his dalliances with out in the island, which, by the way, you're gonna love. I have a little nugget on the island on I was going to say Seinfeld's island. It isn't. It's Epstein.
Yeah, it's not yet.
Epstein.
Yeah,
Epstein's island.
one of them lads.
Do you know?
Wait, do you know the Kanye moment? No, Tom.
No,
Just say
no.
yeah.
But do you know?
Set
do you
Rogan's
know the
Island. No, one of them lads anyway.
Do you know the address on the island? The address of one of his proper.
I know the name is Little St. James, but is it like 123 Pedophile Street or something like that?
It's literally and here's where it's gonna go. If you watch SpongeBob has his wallet open.
Bikini Bottom.
SpongeBob's no, it's not SpongeBob's actual address in Bikini Bottom is 124 Conch, as in the conch, like the conch shell.
From
Conch
Lord of the
Street.
Flies, yeah.
Well, guess what? His address, what Epstein's address was 124 Conch Street.
No way, man. Is there
Little St. James.
124?
He could have owned
buildings on the
all.
island?
He could have owned all 123 prior to that. I don't know, but
Weird.
yeah. Or there may be, God only knows.
I saw a video the other day about SpongeBob, and there's a lot of like weird, imagery and stuff in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they live in Bikini Bottom. There's a whole load of like, like sexual suggestive imagery.
Oh, there absolutely is. Like,
It's weird how they go on. And it's a kids show ostensibly. There's a whole lot of stuff with the Disney ones as well. All the movies have like secret dicks in the clouds and stuff like that. But it's just weird that like Epstein had decided to name it after Bikini Bottom, and then the link between that and.
I just look. I don't want to tickle your conspiracy feathers too hard, but
everything links together.
But he was the idea of that. What I wanted to ask you. I mean, everybody knew that he's no sweat glands in the story of him being in Pizza Express or whatever it was, and how he was denying it, and of course he's going to get invited out with all the great and the powerful of the time.
Yeah,
but
of course.
How was he not able to wash the funk off himself when so many of the others were?
I think
like
the royals are being held to a different standard, Tom. Do you know?
Okay.
Like, look at what they're doing to Harry and Meghan now at the moment. Like as we record this, Meghan's getting lambasted for like making a kind of a joke about how she fucked up the curtsy when she met Queen Elizabeth for the first time, and everybody took her real hard, being like, she making fun of our royal family. Like again, I know we've talked about it before. They're Germans. Do you know?
Yeah.
Queen Victoria, German accent. Saxburg Gotha. Philip is a fucking, a Greek, whatever, fucking inbred. They're all inbred Germans, like. And like, why do you give so much of a fuck about them? And I know there's a whole tradition and it's this whole thing, but they're held to a really high standard of etiquette, right? And against all advice from like, I'd say a couple of centuries lineage of royal advisors. Like, these cunts keep notes on every fucking thing and pass it down to the next lads. You'd be deviling under like butlers are doing like 20 years of training and shit like that. Like, you have to fucking, everything has to be perfect, And I against all that, good grace and great advice, Andrew decided, no, you know what? I'm going to go on to fucking Panorama and do the interview myself on my own anyway, and just like roll the dice and see. And your one is like, so come here, here's a picture of you and you're fucking sweaty all over. But I don't sweat. And everyone was like,
I know.
Oh, what a fucking dope. Like, so of course he was going to be stripped of his titles. He was going to not be front and center at any kind of events. Like, they don't want that stink around him. Just like they kind of didn't want the stink around Harry, because he was like going against the grain by marrying like someone who wasn't of noble blood on a much more diffused level. They were giving Harry loads of shit, and he's like, you know what, I'm out, I gotta go. I seen what you done to me ma. People you don't want around tend to fucking, take car rides places that they don't essentially want to be. So I think like Andrew probably, when it starts to die down, maybe in 2023, please God, he's going to end up, in a tunnel in France, a version of a tunnel in France himself, because like he's too liable. He's too liable to say it, and he's too, uncontrolled. And he made friends with Epstein, like, before Epstein was actually caught and convicted in 2012 for doing like dodgy shit. He then went and visited him after as well and was like, oh, I was only going to tell him that I wasn't going to be I was only hanging out with him to tell him I wouldn't be able to be hanging out with him anymore. So that's what he really got in trouble for. And the thing that I can't understand is, how is Bill Gates able to go and make friends with Jeffrey Epstein after the conviction and after the arrest, where he was, Epstein was at home in his apartment in New York with an ankle bracelet for a really serious crime. He didn't have to go do hard time, like. And Bill Gates is like, that guy sounds like someone I'd like to be friends with. And he went and met him after. It wasn't like they were friends before and he forgave him a crime. He's like, he went to seek his company after he got caught for that shit. And nobody's like stripping Bill Gates of anything. In fact, they're all listening to him fucking talking shite,
So
but
that
there's a standard for the royal family. You have to do
is
that.
Is that it? Because you got Gates, you got Clintons, you got all sorts going out there.
Cunt. Alec Baldwin going out there, pew pew, pew 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 pew, like shooting cans off the fence and all. Watch this. I'm a really good shot. I never miss. Pew 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 pew. Whoops, sorry about that. Like, of course, and he got away with it.
He got away with it.
Yeah, of course.
My lord. And again, that could be in here somewhere, and it isn't. but
Yeah.
it's like another one. It's like wow. But that's what just struck me. So that answers the question perfectly. Really, is that they're just held to a different standard, and probably would have gotten away with it because let's be honest, Royals have gotten away with a lot of stuff down through the years.
Yeah.
But the panorama thing, you're like, all and sundry must have been going, don't you fucking do it. Don't you do it, you dozy bastard.
I think
Listen,
he was like officially instructed by order of the Queen not to do it. And
Can you imagine?
He
Like,
disobeyed the order. Like, I guess, you know.
would you not, like, you keep the head down. You've got the softest gig going. You're not
Yeah.
top. You're
Yeah.
not top dog. You never will be. You never have to be. You can just fuck around. Literally just being a horrible bastard. Keep your fucking mouth shut.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go on Panorama and claim that I've never sweat.
And the rest, like that was the one quote that came out of it. But the fact that he denies everything, like denies even meeting her or knowing her, or anything like that. What I thought was terrible was that the woman Virginia Giuffre Robinson, I think is her married name or whatever, Virginia Giuffre. She ended up having to like legally like recant the statement. Obviously, the royal lawyers leaned on her too hard and just went, "You want to fucking take that back," and it's all gone away since. But still, like he's persona non grata around the place, and with the new king and all, spoiler alert, with the new king and everything like that, I guess he's not fucking very welcome around the place. Like it always happens, Tom. You know, the family, they're all around. They have like a matriarch or a patriarch, and they're holding everybody together. And all the brothers and sisters are all fucking, goofy gobshites doing mad shit. And the fucking granny dies or the granddad dies, and then everyone's like, right, I'm divorcing you. I'm fucking hate your guts. Don't ever fucking talk to me again. Go fuck yourself. Christmas is a great time to have those type of conversations. The first Christmas after granny dies is where it all comes out. Like, I always hated you. Arguing over the fucking the glinting spirit of a box of open Ferrero Rocher. You know what? Go fuck yourself. You're always a greedy cunt. Give me that last Rocher, you prick.
Yeah,
that's what's happening, man. They're a family at the end of the day, like, and
to be a fly on the fucking wall inside in that place.
Look at.
Felt that being January. I want to start off with something light for January, and I mean you answered the question absolutely as we wanted.
She was looking really suspicious.
I mean, in fairness, in all fairness,
what's a few got in your pocket?
There's a lot to be said for stay-at-home moms. She was a working woman away, didn't keep an eye on her boys. They're gone fucking.
So it is. Stay home, mind your children. Do you ever see Charles's weird sausage fingers?
Man, he's got either a condition, because that's the only time you normally see fingers that fat is when a man's been fucking working hard all his life on a shovel, milking cows by hand.
Yeah,
that lad, he normally keeps his hands behind his back, which I suppose for the longest makes sense.
Yeah, he looks like he has 40 elastic bands on each wrist. It's very weird. Very strange.
Brilliant. Right. Now, this seems to be never ending, and Christ almighty, try and find a news article around this one. We'll move swiftly on to February. And again, this felt like it was fucking 4 years ago this all kicked off. But Russia invades Ukraine. Or, well, we now know to call it Ukraine and not the Ukraine. For some reason, people were calling it the Ukraine. Like, the Ireland would be... I like the idea of calling it the Ireland, but
I think the term like the proper noun of the Ukraine comes from like USSR times, where it was like an area. It's like the back kitchen, or like I'm going down the yard, like the Ukraine is considered.
Oh yes, right, yeah.
The area where they grew all the wheat, and it wasn't really a country of its own and stuff like that. So they have their own, like the communists at the turn of the century, like, took over a lot of spots that had their own very deep and rich history, like the Baltic countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They took over like huge parts of Poland, all the stands, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan. Like, they've all mad. Did you ever see Tajikistan had those fucking
have I
7-star hotels and like ginormous fucking white marble palaces and everything shit's made out of gold? And like, where the fuck have these lads been?
But like, for anybody who's wondering, what did Gordo just make up a word? No, he didn't. There's a great series, if you can find it, called Dark Tourist, and I don't think they're making another one, but it kills me because it was one of my favorite shows. And he goes to Tajikistan, which is the most phenomenally mental place.
Mad.
Like, mental. And
It
just like
looks like
that, they
an
have.
alien planet from fucking Star Wars or something.
Yeah, and then there's, for some reason, they have just a burning hole in the ground. Have you seen? Did you see that?
Yeah,
Just
burns, it's
out the
burning
country,
forever.
just
Yeah,
burning hole in the ground forever.
the mouth of
Um,
hell, they call it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, the war kicks off,
yeah.
and Russia, by all accounts, invade Ukraine. Now, I mean,
It'll
like,
always
this
be the
is
Ukraine for me, Tom.
the Ukraine. It's
And
just.
Kiev. It'll always be Kiev. It won't be Kyiv. Like,
Oh, I know. Come,
man.
come on. It's a chicken. It'll never be a chicken Kyiv. You can't eat a chicken Kyiv. I'm sorry. I will never eat a chicken Kyiv.
Yeah. They're changing
So
it all,
it's-
man. It's all the retcon and everything. The next thing you're cutting it with chicken Kyiv and it'll be fucking rosemary instead of garlic. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. This is
No.
fucking
No.
Mandela
Yeah, I
effect
know.
shit.
This is it, just forcing us, like gaslighting the shit out of us, like. But
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, your average person, the way it was sold to us, because of course the world over was told to take these Ukrainian people, and the men are going to stay behind. That's a very powerful thing, and we were just told that Russia were a bunch of greedy bastards, and that was that.
Yeah.
Ukraine was the loveliest place. It was basically like the hills of Switzerland with milk maidens walking around and cows just with bells hanging off them, and they couldn't believe their bad luck that dirty old Putin whore was coming over the hill and he was going to take all of their stuff.
Yeah.
And then I looked into it ever so slightly with my very shallow eyes. Now, I'm a stand-up comedian. I would not allow, and I've worked in some responsible jobs, but I would not let me have the presidency of. And I tell you what, if I was to be a president, I'd look like a great president. I would definitely say all the right things, but would I know a fucking thing? No, I wouldn't.
Like Conor
then,
McGregor on Twitter is going like, let me be the president.
Yeah.
I'll box the English out of the country. Get out of that.
I'll batter.
Batter you.
Yeah.
You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing, Charles.
This is what I'm saying. And now this guy's, Sean Penn has given him his incredibly, he gave him his Oscar.
Yeah.
Which kind of, if you were to look into it, you go, why would you give him money if you appreciate him, but you appreciate his acting? Well, I don't understand. What is?
Because he's acting like the president of the Ukraine, and he's acting like he's not bought and paid for by, anti-Putin globalists.
So
you're kicked off YouTube now, Tom.
it's all right. It's okay. YouTube doesn't like us on a regular basis anyway. So tell me this and tell me no more. We were just told that Russia wanted to invade Ukraine because they wanted to take it back under the mothership. And, of course, they were going to start the whole communist thing again. And yes, the USSR was coming back. All these walls were going up and they wanted them back under their wing. But Ukraine was like, no, we're not going home. It's the fucking hasn't even gotten dark yet. We're not going in. Fuck off, man. So
it's coming home. It's coming. Communism's coming home. It's coming home. Yeah, they're
Is he like Putin seems like a bit of a fucking animal, but is he? I don't think he's the lunatic that people set him out to be.
No, but then if you say that in the minds of right-minded people, you're siding with a war criminal or some shit like that. They're making up a load of stuff. If you want it from a conspiracy point of view, or you want it from a general knowledge point of view, I'll give you down the middle of both.
Yeah,
so,
if you would, please, so we can at least let people make their own decision, I guess, on it. But if we can give them the realistic evidence that is there, because for the most part, we're just being kept in the dark. All I know is that fucking diesel got fucking expensive.
Well, it's not. It's a huge thing. Like, it's a huge, really long, very dense story of like geopolitics and personal wealth and people who were involved in like the intelligence community ending up becoming like the leaders of the country, these kind of things. There's billions and billions of dollars at stake, both for the West and for Russia and the considered East. There's lines being drawn in the sand over, like I said, a crumbling Western society versus like a fairly self-sufficient, sleeping dragon in the Chinese economy and the Russian economy not doing too bad at all, really. So, like, particularly from the kind of down the line news and conspiracy point of view, Ukraine have eastern regions called Donetsk and Luhansk, among others,
Yes.
that have natively born Russian people who were born like before Perestroika in when it was the USSR, when the predominant language was Russian, and they identified themselves as Russian citizens. And by all accounts, the Ukrainian government were kind of like xenophobic against Russians. They don't like having people encroaching on their culture. It'd be like the way the Irish view the English, like in that kind of a way, right?
Mm.
And Ukrainian is quite similar to Russian in its construction and its speech. Like you'd be able to figure it out if you could speak one, you could speak the other. And these people were living there and living their lives, but then they were starting to get hassle, and there was so you have to go back all the way to like 2002, and then there was a regime change, and then 2014 it was the Orange Revolution, it was called, where basically like the tides turned for Ukrainian leadership, and Ukraine ended up siding basically with the West, with the NATO countries, with America and the Five Eyes, you know, the America, Canada, UK, Australia, like these kind of Western oligarchical, and you know, the bad guys, as a conspiracy theorist would see it. And they're not the only ones, do you know? So like Poland did the same, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, like I said, all of these border countries on Russia. So the problem is these people in the east of Ukraine were getting bet, getting
Right.
you know, xenophobically attacked and being kind of fucked off, and they were saying to the Russian government, like, can you do something about that? And so these lads wanted to liberate those sections like they did with Crimea, and that's the official version. We wanted to liberate the people who are being being racist against. And there's loads of these like Ukrainian soldiers that are showing up with like weird like Nazi white supremacist type symbols on their uniforms, and they're very clearly like racist and you know like ethnically opposed to Russian people in their country, as you would be with Germans for Jews during the war. Like you're like, okay, you're German, you're born in Germany, you speak the language, but you're not really one of us, you know, this kind of thing.
Yes, yeah.
So all of that stuff started coming out, and this black brigade and all these guys like these have these fucking, you know, Nazi sun symbols and all on their uniforms. People are like, this is weird. And then of course, like you look at the geopolitics of it. So like Zelensky, who's the president, who there he is now, Tom, from a TV show where he was a comedian who ended up getting elected as the president of the Ukraine, and there was a whole TV show about that, and then it actually happened in real life, and everyone was like, is this real life or what's going on?
Hold on, what?
Yeah.
So he was in a TV show where in the TV show his character was a comedian who became the president of his country.
Yeah. And then in real life, he as a comedian ended up becoming the president, or a comedian or an actor ended up becoming the president of his country. And he was so good at that role that Sean Penn gave him an Oscar.
Oh my
the audio listeners
God.
can't see me looking really suspicious now, but that's what I'm looking at.
So that's the most bizarre shit I've ever heard. Is that how it came about?
Yeah, of course. It's fucking bonkers, right? So this Zelensky is owned by this guy called Kolomoisky, who's like a multi-billionaire who's totally opposed to Putin's reign in Russia, and basically is throwing all the money, siding with the West. They're threatening the Ukraine to become part of NATO, which means that they'll be able to put like, you know, military bases there and have like free reign right on the borders of Russia. And when you're coming into like an economic downturn where Russia is very strong and the West are kind of going, well, you're back to a kind of a Cuban Missile Crisis type of thing. Like, did you ever think in 2022 they'd be talking about nuclear war? You're like, fuck up, man.
That's what's blowing my mind. Like, it's that this sounds like something that should have happened in the 70s.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it sounds like, no, this is before my time.
It's all the greatest hits, man. The greatest hits of fear are happening now. Nazis are back. Nuclear war. Fucking Only Fools and Horses. You know, all the stuff.
Glenroe. If Glenroe starts on a Sunday night,
yeah, Glenroe, foot and mouth disease, fucking Spanish flu, like all this shit is all coming back up to go like, remember being afraid? Do you remember being afraid? Yeah. Like, it's fucking crazy, right? And the other line then is this Kolomoisky pays for Zelensky's stuff. They're going to make, you know, put a bunch of American bases there at, on the eastern side of Ukraine, and be able to like nuke Russia to bits if they get too cocky or whatever. And then of course you go like, yeah, let's support Ukraine, and there's cunts going over there like with a fucking a spud gun and a fucking hurling helmet, going, "I'll fight in the war with you. Come on, to fuck." And then you end up with stuff like this, which is like lads in tractors like going and pulling away tanks, and the Ukrainian farmers we got the tank. How'd you bring it in? I built the massive focus on, like, I don't know what the fuck. There was mad shit going on. Lads fighting with fucking. They were fighting like the 1916 Rise, and like pikemen and fucking, fighting with hammers and rakes and shit like that. Like, it was bonkers. To be honest, nobody really knows what's going on unless you're actually there, right?
Yes.
I feel, conspiracy wise, that there's a pipeline that's going from Russia into Europe, and it was going in through Crimea, and they had to stop that off because they didn't want Russia making any money from selling their oil. Now the same through this area. There's another pipeline going in. We'll talk about Nord Stream later on. There's another one coming in from the top, going into Germany, and it's basically economically annexing Russia out, making an enemy, because war always makes good money. And there's a whole other then line of fucking mad investigation where Joe Biden and his family,
the
Nancy Pelosi and the Pelosi's, fucking, what's your man's name? Hammerhead. What the fuck is
Hammer
his
time.
name? Yeah. Apparently the son of that guy, Nancy Pelosi's husband. Fuck, what's his name?
Oh, he got broken into or something.
Yeah,
what the fuck? Another mental story, like.
Mental story. He's in the house in the nip, and the fucking cops come up to the door, and he answers the door like in these jocks. How are you? And there's another fella up the way, and he's like, "How's it going?" And there's like, "Come here, what's going on? Somebody call the cops." "Oh, I don't know." And then the two boys have a fight over a hammer, and he gets a bop on the head. And the fella's son who hit him with the hammer comes out and says that Paul Pelosi, this is his name, Paul Pelosi was keeping my dad as a sex slave. And you're like, whoa. And then, Glenn Hansard sings a fucking Pogue song on the Late Late Show, and no one gets to hear about it ever again. Like, such
Liver King
weird
has steroids.
shit, man.
Liver King has steroids. That's
such weird shit, right? So, like, the Pelosi's, the Clintons, the Bidens, among many, many others, have all of their money being kind of laundered through companies that are in the Ukraine, energy companies, especially one called Burisma, and then Hunter Biden has a big part in that Burisma fucking company, where they were washing money, and then 10% goes to the big guy. There was emails leaked and stuff like that saying they were kicking money up to Biden. So there's so much mad shit going on in that Ukraine that it was going to be a war. I did a live show in Manchester and in London in October 2022, and I was like, get ready, lads, Russia's going to have a war. They're probably going to go into the Ukraine. It's the only place there.
In October 2021, you said this.
Yeah. And
you knew
like,
it.
Get ready. Yeah. In the live stage show, I was like, it's the fourth turning. We need a war. Who's the enemy? Handy one, Russia. They've been Russia all the way through Trump's presidency. They've been led up to being like, they're fucking with our democracy. They're doing this, they're doing that. They were going to be the enemy. They were going to be the ones we were warring against. Because you couldn't war against China because the cunts would just go, aha, poof, one button, and it's fucking Xbox all over the place. Like, they're done.
Ball burst.
Yeah, ball burst. Like, they'll finish everybody. And they could do it in the stroke of a pen. But if you want a real nice long war, you make a few bob off it. You want to get somebody that's like not truly wanting to decimate everyone. And what's madder is that everyone's like, Russia's fucking horrible. They're horrible people. They're hackers and they're alcoholics and they're blah, blah, blah. And nobody knows what the fuck is going on in Russia because you don't know the language. You have never been there. You're talking some bullshit, prejudice bullshit. And then Putin is coming out and doing speeches and saying shit like the toxic culture of the West is trying to like destroy the world. We must all come together and like be peaceful as one and blah, 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 blah. And then they're saying he's a war criminal and he's saying this and that. Oh yeah, Hitler used to say that as well. Hitler used to say that we all need to come together as one as well. Like, it's such a weird, toxic, shitty thing that feels like it's going on for years, probably because they've been Russia since Trump got elected. So you're hearing Russia's the bad guys. Like, what's a war? What's a few rockets among comrades,
And that's, I mean, I suppose to close on that is that the saddest thing of the whole thing is that poor old fucking Yitzis and Svetlanas, who are just simple old farmers, are going to catch the fucking brunt of it harder than anybody else. Like, poor old
all the
devils
fucking houses are done, man. There's all sorts of developments that were done during the boom times that were all like European investors developed a whole load of buildings and like housing complexes and all that shit. Sure, it's all like looks like Sarajevo now,
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's a lot of people displaced, and they end up coming to places like Ireland and the UK, and the government are all like, sure, come on in. And then they're getting a whole lot of shite going, like, go back to where you don't come from. It's like, my house is fucking a pile on the ground. Like, I have nowhere to live. Can I live here for a while? And then people are going like, get out of our country and all, and take care of the Irish people first and all. Which is a considerable argument. But it's not like they're getting a fucking 2 up and 2 down in Killiney. Like, they have to stay.
Yes.
They have to stay in a 1,800 square meter floor of like the ESB building, and to have plastic partitions between it, and there's small children of 5 and 6 having to go into the showers at the same time with grown single men, and all washed together naked. Like, it's not a fucking, they're not exactly getting a Z3 and a fucking 9 to 5.
They're not getting
like,
the Centre Parks treatment. That's what they're not getting.
Exactly.
The poor
Such a
owl.
weird fucking thing to happen.
It is.
Overall. Like, and in our day and age, you think that shit don't fly, but
I guess
so deep and mad shit happening with that time. So hard, like, to keep it light and it's a comedy show, but like the information about it all is there, and people refuse to look at it. So,
well, look it's none the fucking the clearer. I mean, the oddity of David Letterman, going over there to. But anyway,
I hear David Letterman was on the Dart.
he was.
Did you see that picture of him on the Dart?
Was it?
Yeah, David Letterman was on the Dart, and he was in some pub. He was in the fucking Cobblestone or something like that. But he has a big beard, so nobody really, like, they're not like, oh, you're David Letterman. You only know him if you like seen him recently or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
How's the family?
Well, probably just as big a news of the invasion, and probably took over the I suppose our media for a good fortnight throughout the month of March, was, of course, Will Smith fucking mounting the stage and clattering Chris Rock. Could you believe what you were seeing when you fucking saw that? Like,
I couldn't. I
I
thought it was a joke. I thought it was a skit, a bit, because they're two comedians, good actors. Like, I thought, like, that was weird.
You
And then
just assumed they were mates too. Like,
thought like, just a bit of crack. And he sat down, and then Chris was like, okay, what just happened, Shrek? What are we gonna do? It just hit me. Like, it was he didn't know what to say. He had to keep going. It was the fucking Oscars. It was like a billion people watching at home on TV. There wasn't.
Yeah.
And then 2 seconds later, like, Will's like, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. I said it twice. The second time was like really aggressive. And immediately everybody went, oh, Will's having a breakdown. That's weird. Will's on the way out, man. It's bizarre.
Because I had no grasp. Like, I thought they were broke up as a couple, and then they must have gotten back together. Because I don't follow the likes of their lives. I don't give one fuck, really. But it became very, very interesting when, he belts a stand-up comedian on stage, and I started looking into it. It's like, oh, so what? Wait, what? So he was Puck for a while, where she was banging like a friend of her kid. Like,
yeah. So Will slaps Chris, and then it all comes out, right? That Jade is in this entanglement with this guy called August, who's a friend of what's your man's name? Jaden. So Jaden and August are hanging out in the house, and like, some kind of Pornhub MILF storyline. Jade is going around with the fucking pledge, giving the surfaces and out wipe and once over, and your man August is there like going, what it is, Mrs. Smith? How you doing? You looking good. This peach cobbler's delicious. She's like, yeah, honey. Y'all better, Jaden, y'all better mosey back to your bedroom. Me and August is gonna have words.
We're gonna have relations.
We're gonna have relations. We're gonna have an entanglement. That's what you call it then, an entanglement. So your man ended up faking the box off her anyway, and there's nothing Will could really do about it. And then she started coming out and saying loads of stuff about like how Will was underperforming and he wasn't at home, and he wasn't a good husband. Just shy-talking him the whole time. Videos started leaking out then of her, not leaking out, but they were being kind of resurrected and going like, look at the way she treats Will Smith. Like, she was coming up to him and really annoying him and asking personal questions like, baby, we discussed this. we ain't gonna talk like this on the internet, especially not on a live. And she's like, oh, Will, you being so silly. That silly old Willie. Like, like totally gaslighting him, diminutizing him, like demoralizing him, emasculating him, like all of this, just giving him shit. And Will is fucking smashing Instagram, making movies, doing fucking Apple TV, he has that Emancipation on Apple TV. He done fucking that Project Gemini he was doing at the time. This is all going on. Like loads of movies, loads of TV shows. He did that fucking thing with the Venus and Serena Williams, fucking won the Oscar for it. Like, he was smashing it. Yeah. And she's like riding her fucking son's friend in the house.
Jeez,
and then going on to what they call the red table discussions, which is like the family.
I remember I saw that. It was like, I thought it was some sort of weird sitcom that they'd put together. It was like, this can't be real. And
family therapy live streamed.
She was happy enough to just go, well, I don't actually call it cheating. It was just a bit of an entanglement or an indiscretion. And he was sitting across the way going, right enough. Right enough. And you're
that's him looking at her, describing it. Look,
like a man is absolutely dying inside. Like,
yeah.
But like, Jesus, Mary Joseph, it's such a fucking like. If has he any friend that would have stood in at some point and went, hold on, you're Will fucking Smith. You could pretty much ride most women around the world.
So then the rumor mill started. Then you see, the rumor mills all started going. Like, is he a secret Scientologist? You know, is he like? You know, if he's hooked up with Scientology, he's not really connected to many women around Hollywood. He wasn't, he wasn't into many women. Is he asexual? Is he gay? Is he, like, what secret is he hiding? And immediately it all started turning towards Will, because he was the one that did the bad action.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Jada was almost forgiven for her entanglement, because everyone was like, well, if he ain't fucking you, somebody better get up in that pussy. Like, it's a waste of pussy and sitting there just doing nothing.
It's good pussy.
Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who would you think of? Can you imagine fucking Lucy Kennedy coming out and riding one of her child's school friends in her late 40s?
Yeah. No, I can't actually.
I nearly said, can you imagine Twink doing it? But I don't even want to think about that.
Oh,
like, can you imagine fucking, in 15 years' time, Vogue Williams cheating on Spencer with one of Theodore's schoolmates?
That's what it is.
Do you know what I mean? Like, think about it in that way. Like, it's fucking weird, right? And she got totally like, oh yeah, girl, you go get that dick, get that smooth dick, right? And Will Smith is then like, you shut the fuck up, Will. And there was a lot of men heard that resonance, like, in that story of like, yeah, I don't like this situation. Why is he stuck? Why is he caught? Why is he trapped? Is he a secret Scientologist? Is there something going on? Like, is he, or is he just like a busy dude who's, working loads and not able to make time? And also, maybe she's a cunt. Maybe he doesn't want to, but he has to stay married for maybe she's still in love with Tupac Shakur, because they had an entanglement back in the day.
That's right.
And she settled for Will, and that was all there was,
What made me so annoyed with him more than anything else, aside from all that other shite, was on the night. It was a weekend of it, like it was a very light joke for what Chris Rock could have gone after her about. But she's looking at her there with, her tight head of hair, and he says, you know what, G.I. Jane is coming up next or whatever. And Will actually laughs at that moment. He laughs, and then he looks and double looks back at Jawan, then swings back with a big sour puss up on him.
Yeah.
Because he looks at her fucking face. Now, the wizened owl fucking witch, you're sitting front row. You're one of the most powerful couples in the fucking room.
He knew he was getting an Oscar that night too. That's why they were in the front in the little.
If Don Rickles is out there, like, you know what I mean? It's not Don Rickles who would fucking bury you into the ground like a tent peg. He just kind if you're the most, you got to punch the king and the queen. You got to give them a bit of shit because it's the days. You got to. They're sitting in the front row. You also got to
take the shit, though. If
you have to take the shit.
You have to.
You have to. If you want to hold on to that power and be, endear yourself to the public, which she's obviously a megalomaniac. She doesn't feel she needs to, even though she hasn't done a fucking stroke in years. But it was when
a few strokes on your man.
Oh, she did a few strokes. But it was the fact that it was a waking up old joke, and she had a big old fucking head.
But it turned into a whole thing then. Fucking, she's an alopecia charity and all this. It all started to become, you don't know nothing about black women's hairs. Black women's hair is off limits, And strangely enough, Chris Hare. Do you hear me?
Chris Hare, but
Chris
he did.
Hare,
He did
Chris Rock
he-
did a whole documentary called Good Hair, which is
Yeah.
excellent, and it's all about the culture of black women's hair, which is like, deeply rooted and super important, and talking about weaves and talking about even back to the history of getting the braids during slave times. They get the braids, and it was like directions to be able to escape the plantations and shit. Like, there's mad history in black women's hair, right? And he just went like, G.I. Jane, and it was like, okay. Will looked and went, oh fuck, and it was almost like, do you know them fucking Bjors that'd be down at the barn disco and the country, the kind of discos that have a chipper out in the smoking
Yeah.
area. Do you know that kind of a place?
Yeah.
And then like young ones would just be like, I'm gonna go flirt with this lad, and I'm gonna get fucking PJ to go over and bait the shit out of him then, just to fucking feel something. Do you know?
Yeah.
I want my fella to bait the shit out of somebody and then come home and ride the box off me. So like, why is she picking fights? Why is she go and get him? The thing I couldn't understand, Tom, is at the motherfucking Oscars that he would do that in front of the whole world, knowing that the whole world would be watching, the whole world would be talking about it. Some people even talked about it being a shame ritual, some kind of like satanic weird thing that he had to pay the price of shame in order to go to the next level. Will he make this huge big comeback? Was it all really like scripted and orchestrated to have him not look like the bitch that he was being made to look like for the months previous to that? I mean, you could endlessly talk about Will Smith's career and everything he's earned, and then all the stuff about Jada, who I feel is like a subpar kind of human being in decency and respect and this kind of stuff. Like, she comes off as a narcissist. I've watched a bunch of the Red Room things. She comes off as a deeply self-involved, selfish and cruel person. And I think, I love Will Smith since I was a small child, and I think even if he isn't Will Smith, a fella like that who's providing for his family and doing all that, like, and raising those kids, that he deserves a bit more respect than that. Like, what she was doing to him, like.
After that particular incident, though, I think the following day, the person I felt remotely, and nobody spoke about this person. I really felt for Martin Lawrence, because can you imagine the fucking voice notes that lad was getting? Both ways.
Yeah.
What about your man last night? Huh?
McLaren.
Fucking slap me the cunt. Slap me the cunt. And he's like, no, yeah. Then the other rank felt, hey, listen, I had to say something, like, you know what I mean? Your man talking about the wife. I know, sure, I know, yeah. Probably say I was on cocaine, would he? Oh, here, the other fellow was on cocaine, was he? But poor old McLaren, back and forth between the two boys going,
McLaren. Fucking hell. That's
can
so
you imagine
funny.
the poor
Poor
bastard?
cunt. But it's spurred off this whole thing about like, comedians are not safe on stage anymore. Can we not make jokes and this whole kind of whole thing? Do you remember that not so long after that Dave Chappelle was doing this?
Like
this
a
show,
week after it.
A week after, and this fella,
that smelt a bit fucking dodge for me now.
it was,
You wouldn't see it in a month of Sundays, and all of a sudden, a guy fucking mounts the stage, a crazy man, and he
crazy
gets
man
and
with
they
a
beat the
knife
fuck out
that's
of him.
shaped like a gun, and they brought him out the pack and they danced on him.
But they beat the shit out of him
They danced on him
the stage.
behind the curtain at the stage. Yeah, but you can still see they fucking danced on him.
It's very bizarre that was allowed, and then all of a sudden Jamie Foxx was there to jump up on stage and go, "We need to protect this man. He's the it smelled very odd. It was
And
like
then
you'd
Chris-
never
and then-
see somebody running on stage, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden this is, and Jamie's there to rub his back, and
Chris Rock jumped up and went like, "What did you say about Jada?" Like this, it was
Yeah.
that little joke back, and he hadn't spoken in public for like 10 days or 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah, what a weird thing to happen. But there was a lot of comedians saying like, "Is this what's going to be now? You're out doing comedy and you say something objectionable, and someone could come up and strike you on the stage." Like, comedy, I think in 2022, Tom got a hard role. Do you know?
yes, it did. Yeah, it did. Yeah,
In general, like being allowed to say stuff, what you're allowed to joke about, what's funny, what's not funny, and there's rules being made around it. Like, even in Ireland, like there's free speech laws going through where, I guess they're useful in some ways, but like they're obviously going to be used just like defamation to take away the ability to criticize someone through humor. And that slapping was kind of one extra straw on that camel's back that hasn't broken yet, but it's fairly close. Like, people were afraid then to be making jokes, and there was a whole lot of people going like, "I'm going to slap." Like, I watched a bunch of videos and stuff of comedians doing gigs and saying like, "You're not going to slap me now," but Like,
I actually I made it a point to not mention it in the fucking least because it was literally the number one. I was gigging that the following night, like, and
of
I'm like,
course.
I'm not fuck this low hanging fruit
But
shit.
you'd
But
know some, yeah, but I mean, low hanging fruit, but you know that some cunt somewhere in Ireland thought, I'm going to do that too, and someone's going to film it, and I'm going to go viral, you know, slap a comedian. And
the only thing in my head was though I would probably end up killing the fucker. Like I'd end up
that's what I mean, yeah.
that'd be my joke. He'd come on stage and I'd hit him wrong, and the next thing his head hits the side of the stage and it's death, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake,
Yeah.
I
Did you hear,
brought
did you
this
hear
on
the-
myself.
Did you hear Tom in the laughter lounge last night? Oh yeah, he killed.
I murdered, fucking
Murdered
murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so therein lies the oddity of that fucking scenario, and I suppose, as you said, it does tie in. It probably was another swipe at the free speech that is comedy. The only thing I will say is that there seems to be a bit of a hard lashback. I've noticed in the last couple of months that people are kind of, you get a sense that people in the real world, in the live environment, not the fucking internet comedy or the media comedy, but in the live, nobody fucking put your phones down kind of shit.
Yeah.
You see the real people looking around going, oh, we can say something dirty,
Yeah.
say something bold. You can, and we're in it together then in the live world. So there's a nice feeling of that. It's like, oh yeah, that's all shit. Nobody fucking take a phone out. This is about to get dark for the
It's
next
like
2 hours.
1984 stuff. Like you're sneaking off to do the speakeasy
Yeah,
or something. Like you're
yeah.
sneaking away to be going, okay, nobody filmed this and he's allowed to say anything, so like we can have the crack. Yeah. There's always some cunt with a phone of fucking. I think we should normalize. We get one of those companies here in Ireland for all the comedy gigs and
the bags.
get the bags, put the people's phones in the bags, man. So no cunt is going to get fucking TikToked to death.
I love the idea of it. I love the idea of it. Well, that of course was March, and the oddity of that, I suppose, Will Smith, I suppose that took over, that bleached out anything else major that was going on. But for a bit of a switch back in April, I suppose this may I suppose might maybe tie into what was going on in
Yeah, I
in
won't go on
February
about
to
this
degree.
one too long because we've already done.
Yeah,
the
we
base,
won't.
The base.
Exactly.
It's just funny to see it happen.
It was a federal probe into Hunter Biden. I mean, an interesting name for a lad, I'd say, who never hunted fuck all in his life. But what was
Hunting his dead
hilarious?
brother's wife's pussy is what he was doing.
Dirty.
Like
But old
that.
Joe, the old fucking Joe, I mean, he'll come out with fucking anything if he can actually get it out past his fucking lips, the poor old bastard. But
corn pop.
he turned around and he made out that he wasn't looking into, he knew nothing about the federal probe. The president of America knows nothing about the federal probe into his son, because here's the thing, they don't talk business. By Jesus Christ. Well, Joe, I mean, come on now. Come on, like.
They don't talk business because the business that they're not supposed to be talking about is highly illegal and very lucrative. So obviously he has to distance himself. Hunter was put in charge of, like I said, Burisma, the energy company in the Ukraine, and he was getting paid a hefty salary for it. And when Joe was the vice president, they were supposed to give $1 billion of aid to the Ukraine, and he threatened not to give that aid if the Attorney General in the Ukraine who was assigned to investigate Hunter and the Biden family wasn't fired. He said, if you don't fire that cunt, you're not getting any money. And then the government went, oh, all right then. And then the investigation went away. So like when you're talking about like, you know, oligarchical familial corruption, the Bidens are right up there. Like this here is the whole crack about, you hear Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yes.
That's Hunter Biden dropped off his laptop at this computer shop, and that's the file there with the signature and all. And he left the computer there, and he left it more than 6 months. Obviously, he was fucking off his tits, and he forgot where he left it. And then the laptop becomes the property of the company, and they took it apart and had a look at all the stuff on it. It was like, whoa, like all of this mad evidence, you know. And we'll talk later on about Elon and Twitter and the Twitter files and stuff. But basically, there's pictures of Hunter smoking crack. There he is there now, having right crack. And there's loads of pictures of that, but there's also like mad pictures of him with like potentially underage girls, or small videos of him like weighing out like crack rocks with a prostitute, and they're haggling over the price. There's even like suspected celebrities that came, like Lady Gaga came to smoke crack with him at one point. It's very spuriously reported on now. It could or couldn't be her. It might or it mightn't be her, but it's alleged to be her hanging out, smoking a bit of crack. But he's a bad cunt all up and down, essentially. And the story was squashed during the presidential election in 2020. And Trump was like, the laptop from hell, Joe, okay? This is going to come back to bite you in the ass. And Joe was like, nah, it's not, because I got all these motherfuckers on payroll and no one's going to talk about it. But it ended up being like a huge thing, and it'll continue to be a huge thing because there's emails in it there saying like Hunter's tipping money up the ladder to the big guy, as they call Joe. And it's like if he's a sitting president perpetuating a war in a country that he's getting the government to send money to, and I'll tell you the end of this story in December because this December stuff happened, but like it screams of corruption. And this laptop was left in the shop, and it was fucking,
of all the countries that could have gone to war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It isn't fucking Azerbaijan. It's Ukraine, where his son was where they're all tied into. It's like, come on, lads.
Between that and the energy, and that's why the fucking prices shot up during the summertime, because this energy crisis that was created by this war. It's a great way. It's like roundabout quantitative easing. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like when the money gets too undervalued, they need to either print more money or take some money off the table to balance out the value of what stuff is. So like they'll either like raise the price of stuff or get rid of the money. So they're doing both of those things, raising the price and then they're dumping loads of real cash into crypto and then crashing the crypto market to ruin the value. So like it's fully corrupt from top to bottom. And this was like a little peek into the behind the scenes of what's actually going on. Like people couldn't believe they found this fucking laptop. But there's like a federal investigation into it. It's still not fully finished. There was people sitting in front of like congressional hearings and stuff like that in the US going, I don't know. All protecting the Bidens, all protecting that whole cohort. Like, and you've been talking about it for fucking 3 or 4 years, Tom. I've been talking about it for 2 years, at least, Hunter Biden's laptop. And you'd be demoralised like when no one's listening to you or everybody's going like, I tell you to be war in the Ukraine, I tell you. And then when it happens, you're like, I told you. And everyone's like, yeah, right. Like it's just, there's so much corruption and people are unwilling to look at it. Comedy show, it's a comedy show.
Well, it wouldn't be a yearly review, comedy-wise, without swinging over to one of our favourite communist states in North Korea.
Oh, the
boys apparently... Yeah. Look at, I mean, Owl Kim, sure, we can't get enough of them. Like, they've been testing nuclear weapons as per usual, but apparently they've shoot some of these ones across Japan. Apparently they've stepped it up and they're in good nick nuclear wise. Now, yeah, I was under the impression that the Donald back in the day had leveled the playing field and we're all in good form. Who is this just a flex for the sake of flexing, or are they actually fucking thinking around with somebody, do you think?
Well, look, here's Trump with Kim and sorry. Wrong one. There's Trump,
the important Kim. The other Kim then. Yeah.
There's Trump with Kim, who has an equally fat ass. Like he basically squashed the beef and then they kind of started poking the bear again. The history of North Korea is amazing, man. Have you ever watched those documentaries like Kim Jong-il or Vice, like Shane Smith goes over to North Korea and goes around the place? It's just such an enigma of a place.
That's what blows my mind about it. It's why it's so amazing. Interesting. It is an enigma of a place. Like,
I wonder what North Korea said to their citizens about the World Cup. Like, because I remember, like maybe 12 years ago or something like that, Kim Jong-il, Un's dad, said like, "Oh yeah, we went over to the World Cup and we won." And Kim Jong-il was playing, and it was him on his own playing against 11 lads, and he scored 19 goals. And he came home and they told all that to the country people, and they were all like, "Oh really? Yeah, cool, good for him." Like he said, I swear to God, like he's like he directed all these movies. He's like they treated him. It's basically, you ever get caught with a bullshitter? A lad who's bullshitting, like, "Oh yeah, I remember fucking riding 1,000 women, and I fucking invented the Rubik's Cube, and fucking, you know what I mean? I'm a millionaire, but I don't tell anybody because they'll be looking for stuff on me." You know what I mean? Like just the shitest talk. And he
Yes.
was doing that on a country level, and everyone was forced to believe him or agree with him, or else he'd be put in a concentration camp. Like, it's fucking bananas of a place. Do you know? So yeah, I think a flex, possibly. Do you know? This is the range that they have. They just want to show, like, don't fuck with us, you know? Like, don't think you can come and fuck with us. The anti-communist sentiment coming from, like, the right wing at the moment, because it's kind of creeping into culture in America. There's a lot of talk of socialization, but, like, North Korea are one of the only countries left in the world that are not on the central banking system. And if you know the last 3 or 4 that were converted, you're talking Syria, Libya, Yemen,
Interesting.
Iran.
Interesting.
Yeah, all hotspots of banking, international commerce. So, like, North Korea is one of the only ones left. So maybe he's just doing that to be like, listen, we're not going on your central banking
Steer
thing.
clear.
Get the fuck up out of here. Like, don't come near us. These are the parades that they have with the big rockets
Oh,
and
lads, the
stuff
parades
like that,
are worth a fucking
class. You have
class.
44 children all playing the same tune on the cello super fast, like, and 95,000 lads marching. If anyone steps out of line, like, they fucking vaporize you. It's deadly. Like, they know how to march. That's for sure.
We had to swing by.
We had to say, like, Happy Christmas, North Korea. It's one of those places that I'd love to visit, but I know I'd never make it out alive, because I'd say some shit or I'd do some shit.
You
I'd take
most
the wrong
definitely
picture.
would. You would.
The
You'd
fucking
steal a
intrusive
poster.
thoughts would win, man.
You'd steal a poster at
Yeah.
whatever, and before you know it, Gordo's in the Korean gulag.
Yeah, I could do it 2 years in the gulag, though. I lose a few LBs, man. I come back and be fit as a fiddle.
I think you'd fucking lose more than LBs. I think it's. I think you'd certainly lose dignity and probably possibly your virginity. But moving swiftly along to June,
Yes.
and this one papered over all the snotty cracks and weirdness that was going on around the world, and made us all sit up in the lovely summer to watch a woman who I had never heard of. Pardon me for no pun intended, but I genuinely hadn't. I didn't, nor did I care about Johnny Depp's missus, nor did I watch it like the soap opera that a lot of people did, but I kept a keen enough eye on Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Why was it in the court? Why was it on telly? Why did anybody give a fuck, Gordo?
Oh,
What was the big deal about this? She wasn't much of an actor to sound. I mean, I remember her in Aquaman. She was shite.
Terrible.
And that's saying something. Aquaman was shite to start with.
Shite. Look, I think because it's Johnny Depp is probably the reason that it was so famous.
Mm.
They had already done. Basically, they're having a messy divorce. This is as far as I can. This is off the top of my head, and as far as I can remember, they're having a messy divorce. They'd gone to the UK, and she had sued him in the UK, and won. So
right.
then they brought it back, and he was, like, resuing her in America, and they were in the state of Virginia, and you're allowed to televise the court proceedings in the state of Virginia, right? So Johnny Depp got his US legal team, and these ended up being the fucking stars of the show. So you have there's Camille Vasquez, who's like the plucky lawyer who was asking all the right questions and really standing up to Amber Heard, and what's your man's name? Jonathan Chew, is it? He's from the firm Brown, Potter and Brown Legal or something like that. But Camille ended up being the superstar of this whole thing. She wasn't taking any shit off Amber. To be honest, Tom, I think the reason it got right under people's skin was because we all have one of them cunts in our life, you know. One of these histrionic fucking crazy bastards who's like, everything is a massive drama and they're fucking round all the time, and, you know, you might have to work with them. They might be in your family. Yeah. They might be somebody that you used to know or you used to fucking go out with, God forbid, you know. And people got to, like, vicariously look at the systematic, legal and public dressing down of one of these people, analysing every movement, every lie, every, you know, she was at one point now she was like, you know, blowing her nose and then pausing for the picture, going like,
I remember
like,
that. I remember it was
wild shit, man. She was telling lies in the stand that counteracted testimony from before. She was just a fucking the definition of a mad cunt. like the maddest cunt you could think of, you know. And you're on Camille Vasquez is asking her, like, misheard, excuse me, misheard. That's not the question I asked. And everyone was like, whoa, like, what a fucking legend. Like, it was just the vicarious joy of seeing someone getting dressed down, you know. And of course, Johnny Depp is apparently a lovely man who was stitched up, and they went through all the evidence and they showed this whole thing. So it was like a lot of people, there was a load of different irons in the fire. A lot of people were like, we love Johnny Depp. We don't want to see him go down for something he didn't do. And a lot of people were like, oh, he should believe women and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people sided with Amber Heard. And as the court saw, she was full of shit on many different levels in many different ways, and ended up having to pay Johnny Depp like $10 million, I think the judgment was for defamation, because he lost the job on a bunch of movies and his reputation was fucked and the whole world was like, Johnny Depp's a wife beater and whatever. But they were showing videos of like, the drama was so delicious, man. Like, I was watching it, you know, through TikTok and through these other, like, through Instagram.
Yeah, that's where I picked it up. I mean,
Yeah,
some people
like,
seem to watch live on YouTube kind of thing, but I was just picking it up on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. They were just showing snippets.
I got unnaturally interested in it, to be honest, and watching Amber Heard like fall apart and forget her lies from like 6 or 8 months beforehand and stuff like that. Like, it was really like, yeah, bitch, you want to be a good liar, you gotta have a good memory, you know. And she got really embarrassed. We were showing pictures of her, like, she just went mental one night and like shat in the bed and then tried to blame Johnny Depp. I was like, what is this, like, Always Sunny and you're Danny DeVito? Like, what the fuck is going on here, you know? And she was videoing Johnny Depp and leaking shit to TMZ and going, look at what a wife beater he is. And they were then able to, because it was admitted as evidence, able to go in and find like the 2 or 3 minutes that she'd cut off the front of that video where she was fucking provoking him loads and played all that live. So I think it was maybe like a show trial where Johnny Depp got to put all the evidence out in public, which is why it was held in Virginia, to really like go, whether win or lose, the real stuff will be out in the public so that he'd be able to go back to work again. But what happened was that the whole world got to see what a fucking mad cunt Amber Heard is, and we're able to liken her to somebody in their lives and go, well,
okay,
the cunt in my life is never going to face justice, because like they're just a general office cunt who's going around the place thinking they're the fucking king shit of fuck mountain. But I can watch Amber Heard like crash and burn and really get like properly legally and publicly spanked on the whole. And she ended up doing mad shit like this, like roaring and crying and doing all these like and then
I saw a few of them, like, and it was like, I knew you were a shite actor, but Jesus, that's fucking rough.
Sickening shit. Like, it's real, you know. And Johnny Depp fucking laughing, but people got so deeply involved in it emotionally because they've either gone through it, or they know someone's gone through it, or they know someone on either side of that argument, or, you know, it was a real human story. Now, if you're a conspiracy person, you might think, why have it then? Why make it so public? Why, you know, boost the algorithms to make it be on everybody's For You page? Because what was going on at the same time was the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and nobody was allowed to see fucking images of that because it wasn't in that type of a court. Lists of people that were involved are not allowed to be given out, and I think everyone was really enamored with Amber Heard too much to worry about Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, I get it, but like, it's probably one of the most important court cases of our generation. And she's alive and she's in the jail somewhere, but there's no proof of life. No one's seen her, you know. And we're all worried about fucking Amber Heard's pugs, like, and shitting in the bed.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't think Gillian is going to be doing hard time for a long time.
She's not breaking rocks, like.
No. And even if she gets to a certain point, she, you know, she could be left with a length of very stiff toilet roll left in her cell. Very strong, sturdy, 8-ply, not even 3-ply, like 8-ply. The shit, tensile strength would be up there with fucking cable.
Yeah, like, you see like a golden Labrador coming out and it's like, we have one suspect, like something like that. Some Andrex looking assassins, man. Yeah, it was a weird time. That June was a weird time for that case, like, you know.
That was the thing. Well, this is why I brought you on, to explain as to why in the fuck it was popping up my timeline so often. Because I mean, it wasn't that I was the sort of person that TikTok would be going after algorithm wise, but
there'll be a documentary on it. I guarantee you. Like, people can watch back over that and how, you know, it's a it's a masterclass in like personality disorders, you know.
Holy sweet Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, I mean, fucking hell, shitting. I mean, let's talk about shit in the bed. I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyway, June was one thing. I need proper info on July. Proper info, because I don't fully understand. Was it the heat? Was it was it the solar fuck? Was it laser? The Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, do
What?
you remember
What the fuck was going on there? Just these things exploding.
having an
I mean,
ocean, man? I saw the video.
I mean,
saw the
pyrite
security
is what we discussed it already.
Yeah, it's falling down around. Shoddy
Can you
workmanship.
give us a synopsis on what exactly the Georgia Guidestones are? They're
Yeah.
freestanding monoliths, really, aren't they?
Yeah, like a 7-piece. Well, they're not anymore; they're gone. But there's a 7-piece monument in this, I guess, a car park in Georgia, in Atlanta, and on it they have in many different languages the rules of how a decent society should be run. So, like, keep the population under 500 million, and a bunch of other. We have a whole like 3-hour episode on it, like in the history of it and everything. But they were made by Freemasons, and they have like special configurations so that like at certain times of the year, like stars would be visible through the holes. Like there's all these different holes and all these different things, like the same kind of technology that they have in the pyramids in Egypt, where you're able to see certain stars at certain times of the year and everything aligns up. It's all done with like celestial alignments and stuff like that. But the big thing at the time, because of like, you know, the pandemic and stuff like that, was it seemed to be a new world order set of rules for how society should run, and they were kind of leaning on the side of oppressive. And then security footage shows that a big bright flash happened under one of them, and it just fucking collapsed into dust. And you're like, was that thermite? Was it a rocket? Was it explosives that were laid at the base of it? If so, how come the security footage doesn't have somebody coming along and laying the explosives there? Because there's nobody there for days. Like you said yourself, people think it's a laser, so it's like some sort of directed energy weapon. But whatever happened, the fucking fell down, and then the next day there was JCBs out, and they pulled the whole thing down. And it's been there like since the 80s, I think, the early 80s. This conspiratorial, like, looming new world order, I guess, like, you know, an omen, this like threatening looming force of like, with 500 million we're gonna kill you all, and blah blah blah. But like I said at the top of the show, all these conspiracies start coming true. Like, we did that episode in 2014 or 15, and we were like, can you imagine if they tried to do that, like, over the last couple of years, you know? So it was important for a lot of conspiracy folks to see that happen. I couldn't tell you what fucking happened, though. It was a bright flash, and that was it, and the thing was in bits in the ground. What do you think?
I mean, who was sending a message? You know,
They
who
thought it was
sending the message?
patriots saying, like, we're not accepting a new world order, and
Well, that was my first
You know.
thought. I thought, you know, to be the lad with a fucking Davy Crockett hat and a fucking rocket launcher.
yeah,
A shot of him from across the car park. Fucking, you know, that's who I initially thought. But
yeah, that's what people thought it was. But who the fuck knows, man? Very weird. And so what a strange time for it to happen as well, just after a global pandemic that we're starting to implement some of the rules that were on it. Like, you know, it was supposed to be a monument for all time, left there like one of the pyramids of Egypt, or something that'll be there, like, made set in stone and there forever and ever and ever, and last about
Supermax
40
in Air
years
Square.
only. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's very, very weird, man.
And so moving swiftly along through the summer, leaving behind ones shitting in beds, fucking possible nuclear holocaust and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm moving on to a thing that it not only it troubled a lot of people heavily, but again, I don't dig myself deep into the news, but what this did was it absolutely and utterly confused me, and I could find no rock solid reasoning behind it, because while it may have started a little earlier in America, I don't know, but it came to light in England in August that people started having these drag queens, dudes, not trans women, drag queens, like pantoed up to the bollocks, fucking 9 o'clock on a Friday in George Street in Dublin, going into junior schools. I don't know, was it preschools or junior schools, and reading stories like the tiger that came to tea and the hungry caterpillar to children. I mean, why? What in the name of all? Why, were they that devoid of distraction techniques for the mad shit that was going on everywhere else that they just went, what about drag queens? What are drag queens doing?
This outrage factory, how much can we get out of it? Like, yeah, I thought it was awful weird myself. Now you're in this kind of country, you're bordering on I guess the cancellation edge, knife edge, when you start commenting and criticizing stuff like this. I remember we talked about it one of the episodes, and the infamous rainbow dildo butt monkey came up, which was a fellow that was booked to come and read to children in a library in London.
Oh right, 1 second now. Sorry,
And,
you brought up a thing there, and I was like, is this a new product you're selling or what? What the fuck? So this is what the guy calls himself, rainbow dildo butt monkey. Okay,
I didn't have the picture ready to throw up on the thing, so I have to look it up. Oh Christ! Now you're fucking ruining the size of that.
Is he British, American? Is he's not Irish? Is he? No, he's not.
No, English. Rainbow dildo.
Okay, because they normally go for like dreadful puns, don't they? Like fucking.
Here he is now. No, I had to. Right, there it is.
Okay,
This lad
but that's not a drag queen, like.
No,
do you know what I mean?
This lad turned up to a library to read a few stories. That's him there now.
Okay, so for the audio listeners, it's a badly made monkey suit this dude is wearing,
Full arse.
full arse hanging out, and a big rubber cock sticking out from where his cock is.
Yeah, rainbow dildo butt monkey. What are you going to do? Do you know, like, that's not obviously on par with what we have there, which is, a drag queen. And look drag queens are fine. I mean, we sound like two very conservative old men now. We're like, there's nothing wrong with it. No, it's to their own. No, keep your own to your own self, and you can do what you like. No, don't involve me in it, and don't involve the children in it, and that's it. No, but like, I don't personally see, and being the father of a child, and you yourself being a daddy, I wouldn't see the value in exposing my children to that in a supposedly educational environment. The reason behind it, they say, is to be able to get people to be inclusive and to be, get the children to be thinking on that kind of level where they're accepting of all lifestyles. And you know what? It's grand. We don't want bigoted children. Small racist children are the worst types of racists because they don't have any other social conventions. They truly are the truest racists of all, right?
Yeah, because it's on the surface. There's no maligned fucking reasoning behind it. They're racist where they need to be racist.
Exactly.
They
don't see colour. They just see, they're my stickle bricks. Get the fuck away. I'm here. Do you know?
But this is the
Imran,
thing. Like, what age?
Leave down the Marla. They're mine. Do you know? It's very hard to find a racist child, but when you get them, they are very racist. Do you know? And
they are. They're very racist. But I need
they're learning off the parents, and it's this whole thing. I don't know, Tom, about having drag queens reading to kids to educate them on diversity.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you really want to, like, realistically, it's the teachers you should probably be sitting down with if you want to teach diversity. A kid is just going to see, okay, so that's a dude in dress up.
They don't even know that it's a dude. They just think that it's a colourful, flamboyant woman with a deep voice. Because when they look, like, what are they actually seeing? Like, what's going into their eyeballs? It's like ostensibly a woman's outward appearance. Do they know the history of drag? Do they know the connotations, the sexually explicit or, sexually salacious or lascivious, connotations behind drag? Do they know what drag even means? Do they know, like, about lip sync culture and about when they're doing that? What's that? That they do hey, but then like Vogan, like, you know, when they do that thing, the slut drop and then doing all these death drops and, you know, all that stuff. Did you ever see that?
But it's the
When they're
oddity
doing the
of,
Vogue and stuff. Like, they can do that. And
but
there's a whole culture behind it and everything. But, like,
to
is that for kids?
introduce, it's not like it's almost pointless. I mean, I don't see. Yeah, okay, it's a forced thing that I don't really see the point of. But also, especially like to bring it close to home, and they started doing it in Ireland, and they had it all left versus right, as they do with every fucking thing.
Yeah.
Fuck me, they made Teslas fucking political.
Well, there was
But
protests and stuff in Reading, and there was protests in Ireland and stuff as well. Like, so that they didn't want this. The people, the fathers and mothers of the children, some of the children that were in the library didn't want it. So they had these protests, and there was counter protests, and the police had to come and look at if there's a bunch of people and they're saying, I don't want this around my kids. Like, if there's a primary school teacher and the primary school teacher's like, I want to show these very young children the horrors of the Holocaust so they truly understand
history,
and and the parents go, can you wait until they're like 14 or 15? No, they need to know it now. But he's only 4.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
You know, these things are understandable. Now, obviously, you're back to this old conservative argument of, if you let the gays marry, the next thing they'll be paedophiles everywhere, father. You know, and it's a false
Of
equivalency.
course, we're
and
not.
all of this
We're
kind
not
of-
talking
right?
about that.
But the argument is being made that if
Yeah,
you
of
allow
course. Yeah.
essentially like a man in drag or a man in a dress, like the evil term, this is all cancelable shit. Like, it's so annoying
Yeah,
that
of
you can't
course.
even
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
If you allow a man in a dress near children, what does he want to be near children for? And what's the, you know, the blah blah blah, the sexualization of the dance, and it's escalated since, like, in America it started off with kids being read to in a library, and then you had guys like this is Desmond is amazing, and you have like drag kids, so the kids are getting into it. There's a very famous video. Your listeners now aren't able to see this picture, but there's drag children. I've even seen like special needs drag people with Down syndrome that are dressed up in drag, and it's kind of getting to this level where people are starting to go like, what's the end goal here, you know? And I don't know, man. I sound like I really hate this stuff by criticizing it even a small bit, but I'm going like, why is it needed to? Why
That's
with
all.
such
That's
small
all I'm
children,
asking.
like-
That's all you're asking.
Yeah.
Is what is the point of it? Because it sounded like a very loose term when I heard it. It was like, oh well, it's to teach diversity. It was like, okay, but why not just teach diversity? And here's the thing. There's almost no drag queens. There are more fucking polar bears in Ireland than there are fucking drag queens.
Yeah.
At what point is a kid gonna fucking run across a drag queen when it's, 9 or 10 and go, I don't understand this. Why didn't somebody show me this in a library when I was 4?
I'm
It's
traumatized
almost
now for not knowing what drag queens are. Like,
you could argue, oh well, I mean, it's good to always have it in the memory bank. Well, okay, we'll bring in a welder and let a welder fucking read to him. Like,
do you know
is
what
that-
you do? Do you know what you do if you want to give like a good role model for the children? Bring in like a stable adult man with 2 or 3 close friends and a full-time job
there you
to
go.
read to the children.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, an emotionally stable and competent man in his mid to late 30s that has a social network, maybe an artistic outlet, and he's able to express his emotions accurately, and is not addicted to any substances. Let him read to the children. Like, that's a good role model to if you can't see it, you can't be it. I just think this fringe ideology and these kind of things, like I talked about cultural Marxism for fucking years, for the last 5 or 6 years I've been banging on about it. People got bored of it, in fact, on my show, and I got a bit bored of it myself, Tom, because it seemed to be a relentless force that was pushing through all of this cultural malaise that the Western world is going through at the moment. But this seemed to be a thing of like bigotry at the start, going, "Them get them queers went to children."
Yeah.
You don't want drag queens reading to kids. And they said, why? I was like, because it's going to fucking escalate, and it's going to escalate. And it went back to this argument of like, oh yeah, that's why you don't want gay marriage, because you're afraid that they're all going to, go after the kids and stuff. And then people went, all right, then go on. And then it ended up then in America where you have stuff like this, where they have like kids being brought to drag shows.
Okay, that's
And
that's a fucking bar. That's a bar.
It's a bar, and the parents bring the kids from like one maybe 18 months or year old or 18 months all the way up to like 5 or 6, and then they do the full dance and they do all the fucking and hit the ball, bang the ball, fucking I will survive, and like it's not gonna lick itself is up on the wall in neon because it's a gay drag bar.
It's a
And
bunch
then
of
the
adult
kids,
dudes dressed.
adult men who were dancing sexually and provocatively in front of children, and then the parents are encouraging the children to, as they do in strip clubs with like lascivious, sexually repressed men who go to see naked women dancing, tucking banknotes into the underwear of the dancers, and the kids are encouraged to tuck the notes into the knickers of these grown men who are pretending to be women and lip syncing, Shania Twain. And it's a bit weird. And people are like, see? It's like, oh, you're a bigot, you're not allowed to talk about it. And I'm like, okay, what's the next evolution of that, It's a weird fucking time. And because it hit the shores of England, it's kind of a bit more prevalent or a bit more noticeable in Ireland. I was talking about this stuff like 2 years ago, and Irish people were like, what are you fucking talking about? That's America. They're all mad over there. And I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And everything they've ever made ever has eventually grossly affected our common culture and our, pop culture that we have here. Like, everything we consume is fucking basically a shade of American. So, like, get ready for, drag queens in the libraries in Ireland. Like, it's going to happen.
It already has. It happened, I think, in Rathmines, I think, is where it happened. Yeah. And there was a protest outside. But it was... I saw people online who I know were going, look at these fucking animals. Do they not even fucking know what they're trying to do? It's like, yeah, but what fucking world are you in? Like, truth be told, unless it's somebody from I would ask the question on anybody from any viable profession. I would still ask the question to the teacher or the supervisor, go, why is this dude? Yeah. I need to know more. Like, what's the reason behind it? And if they say, well, it's to create diversity, well, right, where's the line of I want a nurse in next, I want to see a fucking builder in next. I want to see a line. Don't give it like it's such a far reach to go, well, a drag queen, like at any point, like I can tell you here and now, knowing drag queens, a handful of drag queens that I know, they're just delighted with the fucking gig. They don't give a bollocks about. They're just delighted with the gig.
Yeah. But the whole thing around it for me is like, is drag not like a primarily sexually sexually expressive medium? Is it not around like sex and sexuality?
Of course.
So like
all their stage names are all sexually provocative. Fucking.
That's what I mean. So that around kids is weird, like ostensibly weird at a base level without any like further investigation. It's weird. It's like, would you have a stripper come and read to kids in library?
Same thing.
And they did that in America. They actually had strippers that came to libraries dressed in their stripper gear, like not obviously having their fucking flaps hanging out or whatever, but like dressed in gear that was their work clothes, let's say. And they'd come in and they'd go to read, and the police were called, and the police came and took these women away from the library. And I'm like, why would you not do the same then when you have, somebody doing slut drops and doing the splits and gyrating and twerking, and like there's no child should be twerking. Why is a child twerking? It's weird.
No.
And like we sound like two old men, man, but like, and you're not allowed to talk about it, and if you criticize it, you're a bigot and you're a bad person, and there's an awful lot of fucking like Dave Chappelle level criticism of people who criticize this. Like you can't criticize the criticism. Like, it's fucking weird, Tom, and I just think it's like a small bit odd. I wouldn't be out protesting at it with placards, but I'd be kind of going, hey,
yeah, same as that.
Do we need to be doing this?
That's exactly my point. Like, do we need, like, is it that necessary given the like? What I'm saying is, if it's a primarily white school, have a person of color come in and read. They start there. If it's a primarily people of color, bring in a white person. Let's start there. Jumping straight to fucking drag is going. You've jumped so many fucking fences. Okay, have a drag come in and read fucking Othello to fucking college students. So at least at that stage,
have a successful mother or two who's involved in STEM to come in and go, like, this is how I'm able to balance like my job as a mechatronic engineer in a high flying American engineering company, and also have two kids this is how we do. Do you want to read fucking The Cat in the Hat? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the what's the issue? If you can't see it, you can't be it. I think if they're trying to do that, it sounds like a recruitment drive. And when you see, like, I don't know if any of your listeners have ever heard of Desmond is Amazing. He's one of the preeminent child drag stars. And a child in drag dancing in a nightclub in front of men, be they gay or straight, whatever. It's not about the sexuality of the people watching. It's about the sexualization of a child dressed in provocative clothing in a position like originally designed for, I don't know, sexual titillation from men to other men who are of the same sexuality. Like it's not a place for kids, man. Like, the children have to leave the pub at 9 o'clock. Can you imagine allowing me into the fucking library to read to the kids about and put everything, like, okay, I will not have green eggs and ham. I will not have it, Sam. I am. Do you know what? Green eggs, man. Do you know why he does green eggs? Because the lads in India are using the antibiotics at last resort, and they're making all the chickens. That's going into the bloodstream, and you're all going to get a disease that's going to destroy us all. Anyway, do you know? Like, Horton hears a who. Do you know why? Because the CIA are beaming fucking microwaves into your brain, and you can hear it like it's the voice of God. They're trying to fucking control your minds, and that's what Horton is hearing. He's not hearing a who. He's hearing the fucking CIA, man. Like, they wouldn't let me near the fucking children. They wouldn't let you near the children to read the story. No. Can you imagine? And then the three bears. Hey, would you fucking sit down there, you? You fucking sit down there. Stop climbing there, you. Like, we're not meant to be doing that job. Just people are not supposed to be in front of kids. And I think if you're coming from the night before dancing on the stage of a gay club and then coming into, like, read the small children in the same uniform, it's weird. And you know what? I hold up my hand and say maybe I don't understand it, and it's fully acceptable too. Have someone come and tell me what I'm missing. I'm fully ready to be wrong. I'm not 100% like, I will never over my dead body. Like, I'm not that.
I was the same way, and I just looked and it seemed to be the same thing, that there was just it was a notion that it was to promote inclusivity and diversity in her, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but Jesus Christ, going straight there. Like, bottom line is, it's fucking grown ass men who are, and it's not. I would have an easier understanding if it was trans people. You go, okay. Yeah, okay, so I get that, but it's not. It's a professional performer whose primary business is in gay bars. And it's like, if that was the case, just leave the pubs open to kids and let them rock in at whatever time they fucking want. And, has
Ireland already, like, surmounted this hurdle in our culture? Shirley Temple Bar has already broken down all these barriers. Do you know what I mean? Doing the lotto.
Oh, just doing the lotto, of course. Yeah.
Shirley Temple Bar. What's that guy's name?
You know what? I've had him on another podcast. Yeah. Paul something or other is his name. He's a nice guy, but he's a working performer. Working performer. Like. Yeah. I'd be surprised if the likes of him took it.
For the telly bingo, people used to be like, "Oh my God, can you see what's on the telly bingo?" Like, they couldn't believe that there was a drag queen on the telly bingo. And then they just get used to it, and it's like, oh, it's grand. But it's just like, there's some things the kids don't need to know about, like, yet. And I guess it's a personal choice. But when you have people fucking going up against school councils and stuff in America, like, whatever's happening in America, it'll be echoed here, like, maybe 2 years later.
Yeah.
And they're having some serious problems over there with, like, kids being exposed to stuff through teaching, through the teachers, that I don't think is, like, for me personally, is appropriate. Maybe I can be educated on it, and I'll always leave room for somebody to tell me where I'm going wrong. Like, obviously this is a very strange conversation for two straight white men to be having and being so sure, but we're also allowed to have our preferences, and I wouldn't like a man in drag to be reading fucking Goldilocks to my little girl and have her coming home and going, Daddy,
tell me more about this chap and his profession.
Why was that man making his arse cheeks clap mere inches from my face while we were supposed to be reading fucking Aesop's Fables? Like, why was there poo particles coming off his fucking clinker will not arse grapes. Because he was fucking slapping his cheeks like a round of applause, mere feet from my mouth. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not
Yeah.
on.
So we're none the wiser, really. We
None.
just know that it's gone on. We're none the wiser.
And
Okay,
maybe
well,
maybe it's a low level bigotry. They were just like, ooh, yucky. But like, there obviously is a reason to do it. We don't understand it. So somebody who does understand it, I'd love to know why.
oh yeah,
You know?
yeah. That's it. Yeah. Therein lies the question for August. If you wouldn't mind, if anybody can genuinely enlighten us beyond as much as we've said right now,
Yeah,
and
please.
give us a reason why you wouldn't go with a successful, as Gordo said, a successful mother of two, or successful father of two, or even a trans person.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you start there? Go straight to drag is like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking crazy town. Just why
Just
did
get
that?
like a real boring trans man is just like, yeah, so Goldilocks, she had the porridge and needs to be exciting. Like, I don't know, man. It's a weird one. It is a weird one.
It is a weird one. Right, moving on to the month of my birth, September. Is it autumn? Is it summer? We don't know. We don't really know. It's when things start to get a bit fun. But there was an incident, and this probably relates back to maybe February as well. And you can give me an insight into this, into the Nord Stream magically,
Yeah,
exploding. I
it was
mean, it just
weird.
exploded, much like the Guidestones. I used to work with a guy, and he was the worst useless bastard of all time. He'd break iron, as they say, and literally he could just walk up with a broken piece of machinery, and rather than when you'd ask him why or how did it break, his answer was always, "It broke." Now, almost
That's a
nothing
child's
ever.
answer.
Yeah,
What happened?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It broke.
Yeah.
No, it didn't break. Something broke it. What broke Nord Stream?
Well, it's you have to know the significance of what Nord Stream and Nord Stream 2 oil harder.
The sequel. Yeah.
The sequel, yeah. The North sequel. Why were they there? They were pipelines out of the eastern part of Europe into northern Germany to deliver, fossil fuels to be sold and burnt in houses in Europe and businesses in Europe. There was billions of dollars gone into the design and creation. There was years of I guess international negotiations over invisible lines in the sea, like who owned what and what country owned what, and eventually they were all built at the cost of billions of dollars. They were pumping millions of gallons of oil into Europe that was being sold for billions of dollars, like all the way through since the war started in February, all the way through Britain, Germany, France. All of these countries and America are buying hundreds of billions of dollars of oil still from Russia, even though
Yeah,
they're
of
at
course.
war. So like,
Yeah.
what's the fucking crack there, right? And the sanctions that America wanted to place on Russia were like, well, we're not going to buy as much oil. And then Russia's like, okay, good luck. It's going to be cold winter. And they're like, okay then, right?
Yeah.
So this story was set up like Nord Stream was blown up by the Russians to cut off the supply to Europe because they saw Europe as the enemy. Now, there's so many reasons why that's fucking poppycock bullshit. Russians footed the bill for it. They're the ones who were going to be making the money off it. They knew that Europe wants to buy their oil and they were still providing them with oil because they're not at a war with the Western powers. Like, Russia's the best in the world. They're
You'd be
almost
cutting
at
your
war
nose off to spite your face, really,
Exactly.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. They're kind of in a defensive position. Like an attack is the best defense, right? So they're trying to, like, in their mind, save their Russian comrades in eastern Ukraine. There's already the pipeline down Crimea and all this kind of stuff. So there's oil flying out from Russia into Europe. This Nord Stream pipeline was a big thoroughfare for that oil, and it fucking blew up
In the middle of the sea, wasn't
in
it?
the middle of the sea, under the sea, blew up.
For no wind, no nothing.
No rhyme nor reason, right? And people were like, okay, what happened? Right, there was Russian submarines and blah, blah, blah all around. There was also American submarines. There was also British naval forces there, right? There was people running and as always happens with these false flag situations, is people running a simulation. What happens if somebody did try to blow up the pipeline, and lo and behold, right in the middle of the simulation, the actual pipeline actually blows up.
Ah.
So basically, they're just cutting off their supply. There's a massive conspiracy around this, but suffice it to say that Russia wouldn't, in my eyes, blow up their own pipe that they paid for, that they negotiated with all the countries in Europe, like Finland and Norway, and all, like to get all the way down through that North Sea, to get out of Russia and have access to the sea, which is not really, it's not really that widespread on the western coast of Russia. You have the little Baltic Channel there, and you're out in the North Sea. Like, it's a long time negotiating that, billions of dollars making it. Why would they blow it up when they could just like turn the switch, because they were the ones sourcing the whole thing? So they were putting the oil into the pipe. So instead of just turning off the supply, they decided to blow it up. That's a bit fucking stupid, isn't it?
And what end of the reasoning would you figure that we'll call them the allies, as they love to paint themselves, the British or Americans, are they blowing it up to go, hey, they're fucking blowing it up on us, lads? Like, is it?
Yeah, false flag to make Russia look like bad cunts for blowing up the pipe and not giving oil to the Europeans, so that when we're all freezing here in the winter time, they were like, well, you wouldn't be as freezing if Russia were able to give you the oil. But also, if you notice, at that time at the start of September, that was when all the oil, petrol, and heating oil and kerosene and all those oil products, like the prices of those all shot up, so much so that they almost doubled in price in Ireland, and then there was concessions made by the Irish government to take 20% of the tax off the price of the oil to bring it down to like a purchasable level, and that bump in oil prices bumped up the cost of living in all, like, essentially Nord Stream was like the match to the tinderbox of the current inflation that we're all living with, and it's only like 3.5 months ago, but we're all feeling the pinch. Like, that Nord Stream was the start of that price hike.
Well, amazingly, and I mean, I'd love an energy engineer on here to explain to me how Nord Stream affected the fucking wind power hikes here in Ireland as well. Because apparently wind got fierce fucking expensive as well, Gordo. It's fucking awful pricey stuff.
That cold Russian wind coming in is fresh. It's fucking weird, Tom. I tell you, man. Like, but it's all It's all part of a plan. It's all planned
to put the squeeze on us so what? We'll go running under the apron when it's opened. Yeah, that's the idea.
It was going to have to come. These price hikes were going to have to come sometime. This inflation was looming. Like 85% of all money in the whole world was printed in 2020 and 2021.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
Jesus Christ!
They quintupled the amount of money on the planet in 2 years. Like, it's a serious amount of.
That makes sense.
Extra
money. We need more money. Print it. Yeah.
But then to get rid of it all again, to put the shit back in the horse, is quite hard. So they have to do stuff like this. And it's a boom-bust economy. It's the same fiat currency economy that we've seen happen in 2008, happened in 2001, happened in 1995, happened in 1988. Like, this shit happens, and what are you going to do? The next thing is going to be, like, after 2 years of kind of downturn, it's going to be the greatest period of economic, advancement. Yeah, the fucking tigers, like, getting ready to fucking come back, like, to be a new Celtic tiger in 2025, and we'll all be around in electric cars that are mandatory and all this kind of. It's the paving the way for the new world order. That's what they say.
Well, our Minister for Environment, who, I mean, I would urge anybody from outside of Ireland to just go Google Eamon Ryan. He is up there with, like, he makes Joe Biden look sharp these days. He comes out with that kind of shit. The guy drives a 2.7 litre fucking Mercedes van into the city with his his bike in the back of it, parks it up in the Brown Thomas car park, takes out the bike, and for optics cycles around the city with his helmet on and his suit and his pedal clips on.
He leaves the car running
Sprinter
in the
van.
car park as well.
Yeah, leaves the Sprinter van taking over in the fucking car park. Why you wouldn't want to go back in cold? He's this guy's. So yeah. But he has vowed that he will have 1 in 5 cars off Irish roads within 5 years. So
yeah, that's
what
the ice from last week. The 1
in
5
I mean, he's
made
he's made no plans for public transport. This is the guy. This is coming. These are the kind of people that are at the top of governments. This guy came out with an amazing line a couple of years ago that maybe villages in Ireland could share a car, just the one. between a village, and so these are the kind of people that are making decisions environmentally and fucking energy usage and whatnot. But sure, I
He
mean, we're
hasn't.
going to find
Don't have a clue what it's like to be a real person. I feel.
no, nor do they care, because
No.
if your starting salary is 200 grand a year and all the kickbacks you get after that, then it'll be fine. Anyway, away from the depression of all of this and move on to everyone's favorite kind of strange South African who now has an American accent, but is the owner of Twitter. It is, of course, the Tony Stark of our real world. It's Elon. Elon, fuck him up. Nobody ever took the piss out of that name, like Elon Musk. I mean, come on, Musk. I mean, nobody even tried.
Rick and Morty did, and they called him Elon
Did they?
Tusk,
Good.
and they turned him into a walrus in an alternate universe. But that's the only time I've seen him be.
The Musk
really
of a man,
cute.
like the smell, just like Brute or Old Spice back in the day, But
Links
My
South Africa.
Links South Africa, amazing. My question on this is, I mean, there was a whole, he was going to fucking rule the fist. He was going to bring everybody back who was banned, and he was going to allow free speech and everything. He does seem to be banning a couple of one or two journalists that seem to be fucking going against him, which is fair enough. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. But he's a fucking businessman.
There's specifics within that.
Yeah, I mean, they were the
banning,
ones that were following his plane. You know what I mean? Which is fucking fair enough.
They're doxing him. They're doxing his current location, which is a security risk.
Yeah, when you're the richest man in the fucking world, it is a security risk. The thing I wonder is he? Do you genuinely believe him? Because he's been a good guy in inverted commas and trying to do the right thing for the longest time. It seems, but he's a fucking businessman, and nobody gets that rich, Gordo, keeping your hands that clean.
Of course, I think Elon started off with the millions that his father made from the emerald mine that they had in South Africa. So, like his origins come from questionable sources, right? He made X.com. This is all top of my head stuff now. So as far as I know, he made X.com, which was bought in by PayPal. So people say like, oh, he created PayPal. He created like a function of PayPal before PayPal existed that was amalgamated with another service. He got bought out, and it gave him a big nest egg to be able to start off with a bunch of other different businesses. He, I feel, is probably on the spectrum.
Yeah, he is for sure. Yeah.
He is a troll, and he has a great sense of humor, if a bit odd. And I think some of the shit that he's doing on Twitter now is like ostensibly hilarious, but in some ways like provoking a bunch of people that had thought like this is our country, like put their flag deep in the ground and went, Twitter is ours. And he comes in from the top and just goes, no. There's a lot of people are really mad. I think Elon's a troll. Like he loves 69 420. He has all this fucking weird, like it's like, hello fellow kids. Like he has all this meme culture as part of his day to day. And personally, I think he's probably an alien that's trying to boost the human race to a level of technology that can get him back to his home planet. That's a certain possibility.
Yeah.
More likely is that he's like a gifted, highly intelligent, highly functioning businessman who's on the spectrum, who doesn't adhere to regular social norms, but he's not in the psychopath group, which dominates that level of like business acumen. A lot of those people that are at the top level, like those billionaires and CEOs,
fucking maniacs.
They have that 2% gene where they're just psychopaths and they have no emotion and none of that. I think Elon, like, he's a visionary and he likes to take chances, and he has the means, the motive, and the opportunity to be able to have like big impacts on the human race, which I think plays into his ego, which is a weakness. But I think overall he has like the benefit of mankind at the forefront of all the stuff that he does. Like, look what he's doing: electric cars, global satellite internet, energy production and battery technology that will be able to give like significant improvements to rural communities all over the globe with those like ginormous batteries that he's able to provide. Like when Australia was having brownouts last year because they weren't able to produce enough electricity, he just like went, come here, $300 million, I'll ship you a load of fucking batteries for nothing. And it's just, if anyone asks, tell them Elon sent you. Like, sent them all over. And there's people out in the backwoods of nowhere in Australia going like, thanks very much. We can fucking boil the kettle now. Like, do you know what I mean? So the shit that he's doing, like Twitter, 44 billion, was it a big, did he take a big bath? It definitely wasn't worth 44 billion according to the pundits and the moguls. But I don't think he spent 44 billion, Tom, on a website where people are fucking giving out to each other for shit that they said 11 years ago, right? Which is what Twitter had turned into. I think he is buying it because it's the largest active neural net, like manual neural network of thoughts, of trending topics, of information. Like, imagine what it's going to be. Imagine what it's like for an engineer to be able to look into the database of a global conversation in multiple languages and be able to like measure at a drop of information hits that clear water exactly where the ripples go and how popular, to be able to test defenses.
It's the true hive mind right now, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's a manual neural link, and he's in the technology of putting fucking chips in everyone's brain. So like, of course it's a database because he has contacts to everybody on the planet. Well, and everybody who's on Twitter, at least. I mean, he's not going to be in the fucking, hey, did you go on Twitter? What did you say on Twitter yesterday? Like, it's not, you can't, it's not exactly every motherfucker. Like, there's lads in the Amazon rainforest with their dicks tied up to their bellies with a green string so that it doesn't catch in the brambles.
Yeah, they're not hoping for the blue tick. They're not hoping for the blue tick.
They're not on Twitter verified. But I think the people that are on it, including like the news journalists and stuff that were criticizing him and that were talking shit about, they're creating like a toxic atmosphere culturally, and Elon is based and he doesn't want to have that, so he decided, you know what, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to change it. And all the things that he has been doing and all the terms of service and stuff that he has introduced, like he started banning a bunch of people who were pretending to be other people or pretending to be him. And the mainstream media news were going, look at Elon's fragile ego. If someone puts up a tweet pretending to be him, that he can't handle it, so he bans everybody. It's like, no. You can't have people on Twitter pretending to be other people without irony, and then putting up stuff and saying, hey, look at, I'm a fucking paedophile, or I'm a rapist, or whatever. And everyone looks at that and goes, oh my God, did you see what fucking, I don't know, Jason Momoa said the other day on Twitter? Like, he said he fucking loves little girls or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
You can't fucking do that, right? And you've never been able to do that. That was like a heavily enforced rule. But then when Elon took the reins, it was a stick to bait him with. So he was like, no, you can't do that shit. And because it was a rule that was imposed on both left and right equally, but mostly the left because they were the ones that were testing the fences and trying to shit test them, he banned a bunch of them and they were like, oh, I hate these rules that are applied to me. Ugh.
Yeah. That's what I saw from it. It was like, hold on, what? Like,
it was a haven for the left to say whatever the fuck they wanted, to ban conservatives, to ban people who they disagreed with, and it was provably run by a bunch of like radical leftists in the offices. And he reduced the workforce from 7,500 down to about 150 at one point, and Twitter was still able to run perfectly fine. And you're wondering, where did those fucking 7,200 and odd people go to work every day? What were them cunts doing all day?
The fuck acting they must have been doing, going in the door every day at work. It's Jesus Christ. I saw that he was able to. The firing, like, he'll obviously have to pay off contracts and stuff like that, but the firing was some of the funniest shit I've ever heard. Like,
yeah, people open up their MacBooks and they just don't work. They're like, what? They're remotely.
No, but he actually did. He did like He had like Donald Trump going, hey Jerry, you're fucking fired. Like, he actually had these amazing AIs popping up, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger telling people, stay home, you don't work for Twitter anymore. He just found it hilarious to just go, you're a useless bastard.
Well,
stay at home.
I remember a couple of years ago when a bunch of I think they were workers, factory workers anyway, and they were all laid off, you know. And there was this whole thing where like the technocracy, the technocrats, all these like, you know, Palo Alto, fucking San Francisco tech people, they were all putting up this thing going like, oh, boo-hoo, you lost your job in like primary industry manufacturing. Learn to code, and this whole thing of learn to code
Oh, I
became.
remember that learn
Remember
to
that?
code shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So they
yeah,
were
yeah.
telling like blue collar workers to fucking learn to code, like, and you get a job. Like you were in a dying industry and you never educated yourself and blah 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 and learn to code. And then when a bunch of people started getting fired from these, maybe 2 years ago, a bunch of people started getting fired from these Silicon Valley jobs, and everybody was kind of like learn to plumb or like learn to weld, and they were getting banned for saying that, learn to weld and learn to plumb. They were getting banned from Twitter because they're
Really?
like, yeah, you're taking advantage and you're taking advantage of a certain situation. These people are vulnerable and you can't be saying that. Like that's almost like a slur. Like you're making fun of them losing their job and you're adversely affecting their mental health. And now when all these journalists got the sack, all these people on working for Twitter all got the sack. Do you know like Facebook fired 11,000 people and Twitter only fired 7,000, but there was no bullshit about Facebook's firing. Amazon I think fired 10,000. eBay fired like 4,000. There was thousands and thousands and thousands of people all the same week. But Elon got the most of the press for being a bad cunt to fire a lot of people. But there was downsizing necessary, obviously, because the economy is just about to tank. Like, so they had to fucking get all these people off the payroll. But Elon took the brunt of all of that, the criticism and all that stuff. But on Twitter, you were allowed to go tell those cunts, learn to weld, learn to plumb, learn to fucking, and you weren't getting banned anymore, and they were fucking raging because the last time everyone got banned. So it's like one rule for me and another for thee. They were delighted when they were in charge, and they're just fucking sick now that this stuff is allowed to happen, and they're criticizing stuff intellectually dishonestly, like that thing you said about banning the journalists. They were doxing people's current location, and while that was allowed before, they were doing it now, and there was people actually like going and trying to, I guess, like attack the people that they were tracking. So it's like you're not allowed to reveal the identity, location, or status of like a person who's living, who has an account, like a public figure like that. You're not allowed to paparazzi people. Like there's laws around it, and Twitter's abiding by not only the law but their terms of service that have always been there. It's not like they've changed. It's just now they're being enforced because they're not being pointed.
He never struck me as being overly right or left wing.
No.
I take him more as you said, he's on the spectrum. I don't think he leads either way. I do think he's quite up the centre. And yeah, there he is smoking a joint with Joe. But
that smoking a joint with Joe was a master stroke.
I want to believe. Oh, genius for what it did to shares.
Yeah. He wanted to, he had lost a load of shares and he wanted to tank the price so he could buy a load of them up. So he smoked a joint in Joe Rogan. Tesla stock plummeted. He used his ready cash to buy a bunch of shares. Like, this is a fucking big game. And everyone's like, he's playing like 5D chess, like, and everyone's like, oh, what, Elon fucking 44 wasn't worth 44 billion. And he's like, when I'm able to fucking plug all the data from Twitter into the chips that I'm going to be putting into your brains, it's going to be worth 44 billion. It's going to be worth 10 times that. What are you talking about?
Of course it is, because that is the number one.
Yeah.
It's the number one product nowadays. Like, it's better than any fucking mineral, anything you can dig out of the ground.
100%.
Data is the number one thing. So I think it's fair to say that you've affirmed what I thought about the man who went digging fucking tunnels around LA to alleviate traffic. Like, I thought it was a great idea.
They're exclusive for Tesla cars only, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
that's genius.
That's what you do when
you have a Tesla car.
That's what you do when you.
Good morning,
that's
Michael.
What you do. Like if you're fucking Gillette, you don't start selling fucking razor heads that'll fit a Wilkinson sword. You know what I mean? You just make fucking. That's just business. Anyway, moving swiftly along into November, which is clearly in better parts of our, I suppose, recent memory. But Christ Almighty, it moves with so much info these days. This actually felt far further back.
It feels like
because
months ago, man.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, we could be tapping into something here because it would seem that there were suggestions of Lord of Mercy on her. Lord of Mercy, before I go any further, this is no disrespect to anybody's queen, but I mean, she's such a well-known figure. We've all watched The Crown. We've all seen bits and pieces. She's been in our lives since I can remember. Christ, she's been in everybody's life since anybody can remember. But it would seem that
most people on the planet's life, because she's like 100 years old.
Yeah.
So I say most people on the planet.
she seemed to be around forever, but she passed away. She
Yeah.
passed away. It would officially in November, but they had a hologram of her up there a month or two previous at something, and it was
Yeah,
it
she was in the carriage
sparked
going by
rumors.
like this, and it was like a telly screen up against the
Yeah,
window. Yeah, I think she was dead
I
for
would have loved
months,
if it
man.
was like Johnny. That's what I'm thinking.
I think
That's
she
what
was
I'm
dead for
thinking.
months.
And you can see
The
why
deep
you would.
faked the speech and all that stuff, the Jubilee speech and all. I think she was dead for ages.
I was always a tad disappointed that they didn't actually we had the AI, hologram of her giving the speech. I love the notion of her inside in the carriage. Remember that the Johnny taxi. Do you remember
I
in
in the Total Recall,
yeah,
Benny,
just
you you lied to me, Benny.
you make me wish I had three hands.
Come on, man, I'm one of you. Fucking freaked me out as a kid, Benny. And talking about Elon Musk fucking hole borers. That's all. That's what it was in Total Recall. I think the Queen was dead for months. I think. Yeah. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of kind of people saying, "Oh, where is she?" London Bridge is falling down. There
Was
was a
the
big,
code, wasn't it?
yeah. As
I mean,
again, loads of royal protocol to make sure that everything was done to the letter of the law and all this kind of stuff. I think it's maybe because I'm not English. If you're English and you love the royal family, maybe it's a different vibe.
I think for sure it's too heavy. It's too heavy news to drop at a random point in such a pivotal year that 2022 has been,
Yeah.
with so much hairy stuff going on. You have to find a slot for it. You can't. Death is too random. Do you know what I mean? That you can't just fucking go. Oh, well, I suppose we better go tell everybody. Something as like somebody as I suppose almost otherworldly, like a pope or a royal.
A
You
Bono
could
or
fake.
something.
You could fake their death. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? All you need from 'em is wavy wavies. That's all you need from 'em is wavy wavies.
most of the time.
And with the great AI now, Jesus, like you could create whatever the fuck you want. I mean, I saw you looking like a Viking fucking lord the other day. Like,
You could deep fake a motherfucker into anything. Yeah, I think it was hilarious that the conspiracy theories that were cropping up around. Well, she wasn't showing up for months and months, and we're like, oh, she's dead. She came out and did a speech, and people were like, yeah, it's totally deep fake. And then Liz Truss became the prime minister, and she went in and she shook hands with her once, and in 2 days she was dead. And Liz Truss is like famously anti-royal. So I was like, that's hilarious. The amount of shit that they could come out with. There was also a lot of sentiment around why are we mourning a colonizer? The amount of terrible things that England have done over the last 100 years since she's been alive and blah blah blah. And then there was a lot of people who were kind of sympathizing with her and saying, well, she worked as a mechanic during the war. She was her humanitarian works were pretty well respected, apart from that whole Argentina thing. Like she's obviously not the. I'm not talking about the World
hey,
Cup.
Avita, shut up, Avita.
Yeah,
This is not.
Don't cry for me. But it just seemed to, I don't know, there was like mixed emotions around her death. But as you said, there's a certain set of protocols, and it's not something you can just drop on somebody. There was news happening all around it, and it just happened to take that 7 to 10 days. There's like the rule on the BBC where you're not allowed to play like upbeat music for like, I think it's 3 or possibly 7 days after the death of a monarch. You're not allowed
Is
to.
that right?
Yeah, like it's a rule that has been put in for 40 or for like 70 years or whatever. How long she was the ruling monarch, but yeah, they couldn't be. I fell in love with the shape of you, but the shape of you was a coffin. So you can't have that kind
Well, I
of
mean,
fancy.
if Dermot Kennedy was actually from Britain, he would have made a killing if he timed the right thing, because his
Yeah.
stuff makes everybody cry. Like, so,
Yeah.
I mean,
Stop the world. We give it a bit of Narny doing the Queen. Yeah, it seems like there was an awful lot of protocol around it and people queuing around the block. Like, did you see the fucking queues, man? Like I
did.
thought it was bonkers. People queuing for 24 hours just to walk by the box and be like, "How are you, Liz?" And then off you go back to like taking time off your job, like to go and do that. And then this whole
The
big
only
scandal around Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, that they got to quote unquote skip the queue so that they could get back to be on telly in time or whatever.
Well, now I think Philip Schofield has his own worries.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has his own worries now at
He's
the
more
minute, doesn't
fucking
he?
to be worried about than that.
How many super injunctions can a fella fucking pull off? Like, I mean, that's
Him and Ryan Giggs are running the tally. I think, I don't know. It's fucking odd, man. I'd love to know what that was. Love to
your
know.
man. Yeah, by all accounts, your man ran in. He was going to tell all anyway.
Yeah.
But look,
Oh, it'll come
that
out eventually. It'll come out, whatever it is. It'll come out eventually. But I think that like they really kind of humanize, like people like David Beckham was like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'm still in the queue, yeah, 21 hours, yeah, yeah, going to see the Queen. What? She's dead? What am I queuing for? Like, it was real, going along the queue to see who's there, and some person had queued up twice or three times, and they made a whole like, what are they called, like a people piece or whatever. It's like a puff piece about this old lad. He's like, oh, fuck the war. I've queued up 3 times now to pay my respects and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, they're fucking nothing for doing, like, just
yeah, but
weird phenomenon.
I mean, well, you can't really take much from the likes of Beckham. I mean, he's queuing for the optics, but he'll happy enough to take 240 million from Qatar for being their spokesman, walking around going, I just love spices. Yeah, I just love the way, you make your women, cover themselves. It's just amazing, given that, my wife was a Spice Girl. Yeah. Like, come on. 240 million. I'd say that shit too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Fucking 100th of that.
Was it Gary Neville? One of the Nevilles. Which one was it? And
it would have been Gary Neville, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Everywhere he went, they were like, so what did you think about the match? And they're like, I think you took a load of money off the Qataris and you're going over there to commentate on one of their channels, and you're totally taking the soup. And he's like,
yeah. I know the irony of
we're skipping ahead.
Exactly. So we're both under the. I mean, I think it's a fair, no disrespect, you know what I mean, as to our British listeners, she seemed like a nice enough lady from what I've heard.
I mean,
she seemed, it's an odd job to be fucking thrust upon you anyway at a young age. It's a fucking odd job when all she wanted to do was galloping around on horses, by all accounts. She was a horsey woman.
Yeah.
Loved to hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, stayed as long as she could up in fucking Scotland. It would seem it was the conspiracy, and it was a major part of November, but the conspiracy around it was she actually dead for months previous? And I think given such, like, if it was a slow year and nothing much was cooking, nothing much was happening, I don't know, 2017 or 18, maybe you could have just let it drop when it dropped. But I think this year you only got to elbow into the fucking news when they told you. Yeah. And I think that's most likely what I have a feeling, and I'm glad. Well, I'm not. Well, it is nice to get a bit of affirmation, but yeah, it makes me feel a little more normal that at least you think the same thing, that most likely.
Well, they couldn't let her die during COVID because it would have been,
terrible. The optics would have been terrible.
Oh, had to wait for after that, and they needed a bit of a boost as well, a bit of we're England for the English, especially with England going into the World Cup and stuff like that.
Of course,
so there was a whole boost of nationalism, and especially like this, they have a stiff upper lip type of a thing where it's like coming into a cold winter, you're at the inflation is going up, like we need something to lift our spirits. And I know it's a sad thing that she dies, but everybody together, we have a new king, and he's going to lead us into a new future and a new and a new, and it's not fucking coincidence that this Harry and Meghan TV show that has got the wrong kind of connotations. Like, it was made obviously pre her death, but like the comments and such, like there's nothing done by accident in that world. Everything is absolutely protocol up the wazoo. So like whatever Harry and Meghan are at, it's all for a reason. They're not like rogue royalty, like,
I mean, there'll be no mystery as to what the next season of The Crown will be about. Like, you know what I mean?
The whole thing is just the power of that TV show. The whole thing. They murdered that woman to get an extra season of The Crown. Liz Truss poisoned her so they could get one more season. That's what it is, man. Olivia, what's her name, wants another paycheck. That's what it was, and they poisoned her.
Liz Truss is a shill for fucking Netflix. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. You heard it here first, folks. Moving on in, we are still currently in I know a ton of people are going, but what about in November? Every month I guarantee, as you listen, there will be something that we completely didn't touch on.
Yeah,
But look,
well,
we'll be here forever and a day.
you can't.
We are,
Very super quick. I know you want to go
yeah.
super quick, bro. Can't go past November without showing this picture
Oh, I mean, I was happy to talk about
of
the
Kanye.
end result that we're seeing
Yeah,
now
very very
of
quickly.
unfold in our eyes. But of course, the new Kanye,
What's
the
going on with Kanye?
Ye, the Ye as he is now,
Yeah,
um,
what's going on?
Ye. That man, I spoke on a podcast the other day about this, and I genuinely believe, and you can haul me over the coals on this one, that fucker's a chess player.
Yeah,
Every fucking move, he brought out the most disgusting looking runners that they looked like a dog fucking chewed them, and he charged people through the fucking nose from.
yeah.
He brought out fucking clothes that were just ridiculous, or in a lot of cases, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Charged ludicrous prices for.
White T-shirt for $900.
Yeah, yeah. He started wearing polo shirts. It made every lad start wearing polo shirts all of a sudden. Like pulled up his trousers. Lads started pulling up their trousers. He's got a red MAGA hat on. People are going, "Oh, you're fucking." Then all of a sudden, his music will always sell hard when he's coming out with his controversial, crazy shit. And I think he's coming with something huge musically or creatively, or he's completely gone off the fucking table altogether. But I think he's that much of a mad fuck that I think he's pushed away all the people that had a fucking had him in a headlock
Yeah,
in one mode or another. I don't think he's flipped. I don't think he's flipped. I think he's got a plan. I think he's got a plan, the
I
fucker.
think he's totally compass mentis. He's denying that he's being controlled anymore. He was talking about like his personal trainer was saying like if you don't fucking do as you're told, we're gonna put you back into zombie land. Like we're going to medicate you into bits so that you won't be able to see your kids or have a life anymore if you don't do what you're told. And I think no more than Prince before him, like Prince changed his name to the artist formerly known as Prince because his actual name, his middle name is Prince or whatever. And he had his name on the contract that he signed with whoever. And because he signed away his likeness, signed away his name, he couldn't use that name anymore. So he became that symbol and he was able to then exist outside of the confines of that contract. I think Kanye is doing the same, moving from Kanye West to Ye, to Yeezus or whatever. He claims that they killed his ma, Donda, and that was his sacrifice for success or whatever. And there's so much mad shit coming out. Now, not to mention anything that he's talking about anti-Semitism or loving Hitler or anything like that. Like, that's all, I think that's all just a tool to be able to make himself so undesirable to these people that have control over him that they'll get out of the contracts, like getting out of contracts with Adidas that he was in for years. And he's like,
Yeah.
he got to get out of that. He got to get out of record contracts. He got to get out of all these different agreements that he had made and become free. And is he taking the piss by saying all this stuff? Does he really mean it? I don't know. But I definitely can see the results of saying those things, which are ultimately beneficial for him.
Well,
Being
here's the
like
thing:
freedom.
if you've let go, say you're a big agency, you're a big record company, whatever, and you've let go of your big pony that was selling you all sorts because of the rhetoric he's coming out with. You're like, lads, we have to get rid of him. They're like, yeah, but he sells a lot. No, lads, we have to get rid of him. He's going to bring us all down with him. Fuck. He's still young enough to create a load more fucking music.
Yeah.
Now he's out in his own. All of a sudden, he starts building his own stable, and now he's got his own fucking. Stud farm. Say he builds his own fucking Spotify, which is not beyond him. He's still got plenty in the fucking bank. He builds his own version and only releases his music on it.
Didn't they try to do that with Tidal, him and Jay-Z?
They did, but you'd still want to come back and bite it again, wouldn't you?
You would, yeah.
Do you know what it was? Not enough noise was made.
Yeah.
Look at him now. He's coming out with this mad shit. All he needs to do is one apology. One apology and saying, look, I was going through a dark place. My brain had fucking toxins in it. I was on withdrawals and what the shit they had me on.
I don't think he's going to ever do that. He's coming out and saying that's not happening. He's not going through that. Like, that would have been the time to apologise is in the time after what he said but
maybe,
I think he's taking it all the way to the base. Like, it's very hard to know because he's not a disingenuous person, but he's definitely like, he's a conniver. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's able to manipulate the whole public sphere. Like, No more than Kim can do. Kim puts out a fucking picture of her poured champagne on her arse cheeks and breaks the internet. Like, Kanye knows how to fucking. It's a world audience, and we're all worse for fucking looking at it the whole time, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the intrigue of like I mean, I think he's trying to one up himself. To be honest, with the mad shit he's coming out with now, whether he believes it or not. I mean, ironically, his admiration for Hitler, or whatever that he was coming out with. I mean, if he stood in front of Hitler, Hitler would shoot him in the head.
Yeah,
If
but I
just
think what he was, and here's the thing that they'll have on the front of the paper now. Gordon says, I think what Kanye was trying to say.
clip that, lads. Clip that. That's
I think what he was trying to say is, like, love everybody, and he took
okay.
like the most vilified and hated figure and said, even love him, because you're to love everybody. Like, he's mad in the Jesus buzz, like, and I'm not with him on that shit, like. But he has like the Sunday service. He's got very religious. He's going back to God. What does that say about the thing that he's escaping from? Is that anti-God? Like, there's so many levels and so many, all this gematria and fucking satanic symbolism and all the, like, there's so much, like, you'd do a 5-hour show on Kanye alone, right? But I think he was just trying to be controversial, the court controversy, by naming the most hated figure and saying, like, he even loves him. That's how much he's willing to love.
Okay.
Do you know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right.
It's not
Okay.
like he loves what Hitler does, or he's like, yeah, he's the best lad to be teaching how to march in long boots. Do you know? I think the irony of what he's saying is that Hitler and his works are loved by society as a whole still to this day, but it's just not overt. NASA was created by Nazis
Yeah.
that were saved during
Operation
Operation
Paperclip.
Paperclip,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? All of these companies like Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, Pfizer, Bayer, like, they were all involved in the Nazi regime. Like, the lads that were given vaccines over the last 2 years were like basically the same company that were providing the Zyklon B that they put into the gas chambers. Like, so like all these companies, FG Bayer, FG Farben became Bayer. Bayer bought Monsanto. Monsanto was part of that whole thing. So it's like
Mother God. Yeah.
all of those companies all together. Like, Monsanto was the company that fucking came from a Nazi created company to go off and make those chemicals that they sprayed on all the people in Vietnam that they're still causing them problems, napalm and Agent Orange and all that stuff. Like, so like, we still do love what those people have done. We just don't do it overtly. And Kanye was just saying, like, pointing out the irony of that. Like, people that still dance to Ignition. Remix to Ignition, hot and fresh, and I'm pissing at them, rolling them bodies and making sure she's a teen. Like, it's fucking, it's
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
same
Yeah.
shit. Like, you dance that song, you dance the Michael Jackson songs, even though you kind of have a suspicion that he may have licked a small child's arsehole. But you'll
Well,
still
I
be
mean,
like, I'm bad, you fucking are, you cunt, you. But I don't think he did it. But people who do think, they'll still get up and dance to fucking Billie Jean with fucking 3 or 4 points in them. They're not thinking like, oh no, I can't. I have to conscientiously object to dance to that because blah blah blah. He was just pointing out the irony. Hugo Boss made fucking uniforms for the Nazis.
Yeah. Porsche
And
made the tanks. Fucking
do you know what I
Mercedes
mean? Like,
put the
all of
fucking
this shit.
car under his hole.
So I think that
Yeah.
conversation starter that Kanye come out with is something that people would react to, number one, and people who are in the mode of maybe further thinking, like yourself and myself who are talking, that we'd be able to look a little bit deeper into what he's saying. And then, of course, the third option is that he was just acting the fucking cunt to see if he could get a few L clicks. And that could be a very real possibility too. But I don't think, like, that he should be absolutely, deleted from history because of some shit that he's saying. And that alone might get you kicked off of certain platforms for even just going, yeah, maybe Kanye had the right idea. It's fucking
Yeah. No.
weird. Like, it's a weird space. Like,
it'll be very interesting to see where he goes next. I mean, he's had a go at anti-Semitism and pointing out these, I suppose, difficult to point out things that like that. There is a through line from Volkswagen all the way back to Hitler. There is, whether people like it or not. If you drive a new Passat, then there is a through line all the way back, and maybe
At
people
some
don't want to.
point, yeah.
I don't know what the point of what. See, my big thing is, what's the point in what he's at now at the minute? What's he up to? What's he fucking up to? You know what I mean?
He's saying
Uh,
that we're being taken advantage of by a secret cabal, a cohort of people that he is saying is predominantly Jewish. But there's systems in place in the world we live in today that we can all feel are exploitative. And he's
okay, all right.
he's naming names when maybe he shouldn't be. He's putting the actions of one or two people on like a broader spectrum of people that are not responsible individually. And I think he's very much not able to express himself accurately. And if you're willing to give him a little bit of time, a little bit of fucking artistic license or leeway on him trying to get to his point, he's obviously has like some conditions like ADHD or something like
Oh, he
where
does,
he
of course.
can't
Yeah, yeah.
fucking hold on to his thoughts, He's not a public speaker, practiced very well at these like very complicated, needing to be historically accurate, complicated political issues. I don't think he's not very practiced at public speaking, and yet his voice is one of the loudest and most heard of all. And I think maybe if he went away and had read a couple of books and had somebody coach him on what he's actually trying to say, that he took time like to write a book or write even like a fucking blog with all the information that he's trying to get across, it might be more well taken than going on Alex Jones with a net and a bottle of Yoo-hoo and pretending to be Benjamin Netanyahu and going like, oh, like fucking acting like a crazy person. The only presumption is that he's doing it for attention. Then at that point, like it's
Will
it's so
he
hard to understand.
will he see out 2023 carrying on like that? I mean, he's
As a famous
you know
person, maybe he'd be put out in the yard. Like he's already lost half his fortune. They shut off all these banks and stuff like that. I love those memes. It was really funny where it's like Kanye came out and said that like the Jews run everything and they have the power to switch anybody off that they want to, and they have ultimate power over everybody. And everyone told him he was lying. And they proved it by turning off his bank account and cancelling all his contracts and suing him for loads. Like, that's pretty funny. Like,
it's pretty funny actually. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like, I'm not blaming any race of people for anything, but there are people that are acting the bollocks, and whether they be Jews or not, they don't like being called out. And the democratization of information across the internet is making it easier for people to communicate their grievances with one another at a personal level, anecdotal personal level, all the way up to a very well-researched, scientifically supported level. And the flat playing field of that information is now accessible to even like, very young children can go and read about this stuff and be educated at a level unheard of before. Whereas before you had to go and you had to pay and doff your cap and go to the college and learn the stuff and the blah blah blah. Now you can stay at home. You can have a lad with a fucking a HTC mobile phone in fucking Mumbai, living in a doorway, who has an internet connection off the Wi-Fi from a fucking restaurant across the road, and he's able to get the same information that a fella who's like 4 years in Trinity is able to get.
Yeah.
So like the democratization of information, how shit transfers now is way different, and the more people that know more stuff, the harder it is to keep control of those people. That's why they used to fucking take away all our schools, and poor people had to leave school at 13 to go and work. So you lack your education, you lack your information, and if you don't have information, you can't make decisions properly. You can't at least make informed decisions. Kanye's given information from his personal experience that nobody has access to before. And because he's doing it on the internet, the day and age we live in, everybody has access to that information now.
Yeah.
It started people asking questions that never asked questions before because it's Kanye. Like, can you imagine, like, you're living your life la-di-da, fucking, rainbows and butterflies and shit, and then you hear Kanye going like, something, 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 And you're like, what? And you start looking into it, and you're like, oh my god! Like, of course, be they Jewish or not Jewish, whoever's in charge, who has that nefarious plot, if if it's a real thing, of course they don't want people to know or start looking up, because more people are going to start going, no, I don't like that. So, you know,
Get back inside your houses for another 2 years, lads. Don't be looking.
yeah, I mean,
But now here's the thing: this will tie over into December. Because I mean, yes, I mean we couldn't leave. I mean, the Queen and Kanye go hand in hand, really. I
of
mean,
course,
they
they're
do.
as culturally as important as one another for that time in November.
We'll skip it on into our final month. Of course, it is December, but I mean, it probably carries on over. I didn't mention one of his major partners was Ye's major partners that he was out in, but this is the one that troubled me quite a lot.
Yeah,
It was the Balenciaga teddy bear saga.
yeah,
Again, I mentioned Balenciaga during a podcast that we recorded not 3 months ago in your studio.
yes,
How you enlightened me about on what high fashion truly is about. It's about kind of pushing the limits of taking the piss, because I couldn't grasp when mates of ours were sending me pictures knowing that I have a temper and I can't deal with shit, like things that are actually ostensibly shit. Like, no, this is stupid. Like donkey jackets that a council worker would wear for 3,500. You know what I mean? And ludicrous things. And I genuinely thought Balenciaga for the longest time was actually one of those piss take sites where you go, oh, a traffic cone that once saw a fucking murder. It's fucking 4,500. You know, and knobs in Japan who have endless money. I'll put that between my T-Rex head and fucking, Conan the Barbarian original sword. This is what I thought it was, and then it seems it's an actual fashion brand,
yeah,
and it's an actual thing where they'll try and sell you a fucking sleeping bag that looks kind of like a jacket, which is utterly impractical to walk down the street in, for £3,100. And that's when you brought it to my attention. We're like, no, this is high fashion, Tom, and high fashion is kind of pulling your dick. It's messing with you to see who'll come out of the woodwork,
yeah. Same as high
and
art,
it's
I think. Like,
yeah, I mean, you could, especially a lot of I suppose modern art is the wrong word for it, but I remember seeing it was essentially for all the world. I remember somebody sent it on to me a couple of years ago. It was the Ukrainian flag, or a Tipperary flag, blue and gold, sold for 32 million. Huge, big thing. 32 million. That's all it was yellow at the top, red at the bottom. Or sorry, yellow at the top, blue at the bottom. That's it, painted. Nothing else to it.
yeah,
Absolutely, two solid colors. 32 million is sold to a Japanese guy, uh, and I went, "Fuck you." The fools and their money, fools and their money are often parted, or should be always parted.
somebody vandalized it and they wrote Lurpak across the middle of it. That's what it was.
Fucking IKEA up the middle of it.
IKEA,
Yeah,
yeah. But
it's
that high art and high fashion, it's almost like a shit test for moneyed people,
yes,
and
yeah.
it's also aspirational, where a lot of people would put money into stuff like a Jimmy Choo's shoes. Like Sex and the City has a lot to answer for. Um, People paying like 900 quid for handbags at Christmas time, and you're like, you use it 4 times a year until it's out of fashion, and then you go and get your Louis Vuitton luggage set, and you'd be afraid to use it in case it gets scuffed getting taken off the plane, like, because it costs like 4.5 grand. Like, people want to demonstrate their wealth only when they're not as wealthy as the wealthiest people, and then the wealthiest people want to look scruffy, do you know? Like,
Do you
Kanye
see him?
brought out a whole
Yeah.
load of those jumpers that you wouldn't paint the shed in, and the rotten falling apart runners and stuff. Balenciaga are one of those companies that are under the umbrella of a whole lot of other different companies. Like Gucci is under the same umbrella company, and so they each have their own kind of their own branding of what they're selling.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
product or the type of style, but they're all under this like umbrella company. So, like, for Balenciaga to have that art in their promotional materials, and I watched there's a guy called Isaac Weishaupt who did a really good episode on all of the different imagery within Balenciaga ad campaigns and stuff like that. So there's loads of mad satanic stuff, and it could just be a style choice, Tom. Like that, it's like they're just picking weird shit, and they want to kind of be a bit satanic. Like, look, I have all the red lights behind me, and I have a Baphomet statue and all that stuff. Like, they're all conscious choices that I'm kind of taking the piss of within the conspiracy community. Because people are like, oh, Satanism and blah blah blah. like it's another thing to put a child holding a bear wearing
There we
bondage,
go.
bondage gear. Because again, back to the fucking drag queens in the libraries, like it's over sexualizing a child in the promotional material. Like, what are you trying to say there? Obviously, every piece of art is the artist trying to say something to the audience. Like, what does that mean? Do you know?
Yeah, they weren't the wrong teddies thrown in. Like, you know what I mean? They
Nothing
weren't the
was
wrong.
random, and
No.
the thing that fucked people off big time was that as soon as that was spotted, right, and it was after the Kanye thing, people were like, right, well, all these people are stopping their contracts with Kanye. Let's look into these people. Like, why are they doing that? And they found this Balenciaga campaign. One of the pictures was like a bunch of accessories, like a handbag and some other shit, on top of some papers that were on the desk. And when they zoomed in on the papers in high quality, they found that it was the transcript of a court case about a guy who was found innocent of, well, not innocent, but he was acquitted of handling and distributing child pornography. So why would you have
What?
the
How would you even
papers,
have that?
the typed papers of the court documents spread across like like, do you know how much goes into like one of those fucking photo shoots? Like tens of thousands of dollars, fucking hours and hours and hours of preparation, like all the fucking editing that needs to be done to the pictures after they've been taken, like dozens of hours, hundreds of hands that have passed through all of those decisions that were made artistically to come up with that final product and have it look like that. And when people went, that's weird, Balenciaga deleted their entire Instagram account for fear of it being trolled through for other such, transgressions. But the one thing that fucked me was like, why is there the court transcript of a guy who went to fucking? I'll try and find that thing just so the audience can see it, because
We've both been in photo shoots for one reason or another, whether it's ad campaigns and we're trying to promote something, like, and you'll always like, um, I'm gone a little blurry there for one reason or another. I don't know, but maybe that's they're listening in. But like, I have a bear's head behind me, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
there's symbolism in that. There's a couple of like I don't know, can you read it? But it's a handbook for the recently deceased from my favorite movie,
Beetlejuice,
Beetlejuice.
yes sir,
So it wasn't didn't by fucking hand. Okay, so it's an innocuous enough picture for the audio listeners. It's a fucking bag that wouldn't turn twice. It kind of looks like an Adidas stripe on the bag, and then just some. It looks shite, the photo shoot, but it's just
yeah.
some paper thrown down on it, and here we have it.
And then
So if you
there were
zoom in on that, that's the okay.
hold on now, there were oh, that's not the right one. This one. See there,
Okay, the first word was sexual inter,
yeah.
and then oh god.
So
Okay,
all of that kind of stuff, and then this young girl here wearing the shoes, the clothes, and then a bear in like definitely bondage gear,
and Dom gear, yeah.
and
It's like
it's the case Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition. The citations were there. It's I'll show you the picture. Just weird, like um, the act specifically prescribed computer-generated or altered depictions of minors engaged in explicit sexual contact or virtual child pornography, and images of explicit sexual conduct by adults who resemble minors. So this is a ruling under free speech that basically like protected the images of children or making AI child pornography or whatever.
okay.
And that was included in this photo shoot. In as you see it again there, a pretty innocuous
Yeah,
and
it's like it's like a solicitor's desk for all the world, a
yeah,
messy bastard
but
for all the world.
fucking very purposefully placed. Like, why
Like
would you
the
have
the
particularly
lighting set
that?
up on that day, the everything, like the type of
Particularly
timber that desk is made of,
everything is
everything would be everything.
very specific and very like deftly chosen. Like, why choose to have that right beside the product that you're trying to sell? And like when people looked
The,
into, and the minute it was pointed out, the whole Instagram account went away, and it's very suspicious. Like, very suspicious.
there doesn't seem to be any, and it was hilarious. Like right at that time, I know I joked about it at the top, but right as Balenciaga was out with that, the day of it, um, Liver King's emails were hacked into,
Yeah,
and all that he was taking, and he had to come out and apologize. But I mean, you're apologizing for what? It's like, what are you apologizing for?
it's
The
like
Pope's
Pamela
Catholic and
Anderson
bears.
saying sorry she has
Yeah,
fake tits. Like,
yeah. Of course you do. Of course you do, man. Like, but and there was outrage, but this went away very quickly. Like the Balenciaga thing, there was just a few people commenting online
Yeah,
in
it
their
went in.
bedrooms and stuff,
It went
and
into
nothing.
conspiracy world. It went into
Yeah,
lads like
very quickly.
deeply analyzing all the art from all the past campaigns. But not only that, but like looking into like the guys who run the company, the lads who run the umbrella company, what they're doing with Gucci. Gucci has a little bit of trouble going on now. Like there's an awful lot of really deep cuts like in this, scandal that only came to light when somebody noticed these little teddy bears and went, "What the fuck?" Do you know? Like a lot of really weird, deep cut shit and a load of artwork. Like those
I
conspiracy
saw
guys,
some
we
of the
just
artwork. It's disgusting. It's
fuck.
fucking disgusting.
We released the Pizzagate episode only a couple of weeks ago, and there's a lot of weird
Oh,
shit in that. And this stuff is all like out in plain sight, like ready to be consumed by the public in general. But they have a lot to answer for, and there's a load of other people at it too. There's loads of stuff within like movies and TV shows, like Elsa Gate on YouTube, like all of this like
mm,
child exploitation stuff. And you're talking about AI is making a huge thing, that Chat GPT, which is like a text AI that's like people aren't going to have to write articles anymore. Like you put in a suggestion, like and it just writes you like hundreds of words, and it all makes sense. Like it's amazing. Or this face thing that people are putting their head into this AI, and it's throwing out a load of cartoons. They're saying it's going to put artists out of business and stuff like that. Like imagine what pornography is going to be able to do. Do you know? And
Lord.
if you had a terrible proclivity for that, that you'd be able to like, I don't know, take a picture of somebody's child off of Instagram or Facebook, if you were that way inclined and you took a
Yeah.
fancy to a child, and you just take their face, and then you're able to like, I don't know, put it into an AI and
Oh
superimpose it
God
on top
Almighty.
and be able to make
Yeah.
like customized AI child porn. Like that's what's happening. There was a Billie Eilish leak there last week where TikTok had a video of Billie Eilish. It was a deep fake, AI deep fake of her in sexually explicit poses that it just made. Because you don't know what's going to come out of the AI, like, but it's an amalgam of everything that humans are doing, and it just like scans through all the human stuff and then makes its own thing as an amalgam of all those things. And Billie Eilish was like, "What the fuck? Take this down." TikTok left it up for a while before it was removed. But like, if they can do that with that, like, what else can they do? Do you know?
Oh Jesus Christ. That's
Yeah,
yeah. It's oh Lord. But I mean, not to get away from. I mean, AI is. I mean, that's been coming over the hill for a while. That's going to be terrifying and probably end all of us. But
but it's in the hands of the public now. Is the thing. Like we're all
yeah,
able to get our hands on this Chat GPT, on like Lenses, the app that I made all of my little AI avatars in. It's quite cool and very easy to do. But like, it was this like science fictiony thing, and now it's actually like you can download it in an app on your phone, and it does the thing now. Um, weird, sad. But Balenciaga is way deeper, and if anyone that's listening wants to go any deeper on it, Isaac Weishaupt has a whole big thing on the company and the people who are involved and what shit they were up to before and the different campaigns. It's not just these bears, Tom. Is what I'm saying. It's like
yeah. Oh God, I
a
saw some of the
way
art. It's
deeper, crazy fucking story.
fucking strange and would tie in if you haven't, like I said earlier, and if you are not a member of those conspiracy guys, go over
Yeah.
one of their late, ironically. And well, I mean, you seem to fucking hit it. Your timing seems to be very fucking good, Gordo, with
Look,
these
man,
things. I
I
mean,
wanted
you
to
seem to
release
be
that.
very fucking good.
I wanted to release that one at Christmas because Christmas is all about the children. You know what I'm saying?
So rounding off, I mean, we got to leave on a note of, I suppose, of intrigue and proper those conspiracy guy stuff. Why else would I have you on? Well, other than just we could hang out and just talk about fucking grass for
Of
2 hours. But
course.
of course, we need to delve down into the skull, inside your skull. And I mean, we talked about him earlier. It's obviously Elon and all the rest of it. And I mean, ironically, at the top of the show, or was it ironically, or was it a nice little fucking just a little sprinkling just to get our brain thinking about how uh, amazingly the CIA admission has come out about JFK.
Yeah,
It would seem that Twitter, I mean, Elon he better double up on his security right now,
for
because it would
sure,
seem
man.
he's got. He's gone releasing a lot of Twitter files, which for the longest time, for the last couple of weeks, I thought it was going to be Twitter files on, you know, free speech and stuff like that, and protocols that they had in place. That's what I thought he was going to release, but he's now going to be fucking releasing FBI files on election rigging, and I don't mean fucking the local mayor of a town in somewhere in but fuck America, the actual election.
Mm.
That I mean, is this Cambridge Analytica style shit that went on
It's more direct
before?
than
You know, where
Cambridge
they
Analytica.
is it
Yeah, like
okay?
Cambridge Analytica was basically like utilizing the systems already in place in the likes of Facebook to target ads directly at people who were on the fence by illegally harvesting their data to find like a suspected bias. So if someone
Yeah,
was in a place of doubt, Cambridge Analytica would tell the person that wanted to
and
sway them one way or the
end
other and
result
say,
was Brexit. You know what I mean?
yeah, like this one over here is kind of not sure how much do you want for her email address so you can bombard her with your side's propaganda. This was literally like the staff at Twitter communicating directly with people in the FBI, and the people in the FBI and in the DNC, the Democratic Party, communicating directly with people at Twitter going, come here, can you make the stories about Hunter Biden go away, please?
Wow.
Can you make any negative stories about Joe Biden or any kind of commentary about him sniffing kids' heads go away, please? And Twitter was like, yep. And they lied about it. And they said that we're not banning conservative voices. They were banning, like, shadow banning conservative politicians when they were trying to get out to their constituents. They banned the sitting president of the United States.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking crazy what they got away with. And now that Elon's turned the tables and they're getting a taste of, indiscriminate terms of service being applied improperly across the board. Like, the terms of service that were there before are the same ones that are there now, and nothing has been changed. But they were only really exercised on people who were going against their agenda. Now they're being exercised on everybody, and they're like, we don't like this. And it's like, well, now you know how it feels. But the Twitter files themselves, when the first ones were released, this is the maddest thing. Fuck, I can't remember the guy's name now. But Twitter put together these Twitter files, and Elon was like, I want this to release to the public. And the first lot that came out was missing everything to do with the FBI. And people were like, Elon, I thought you said that the FBI were all part of this. And he's like, yeah, the one thing that I read was, why is there nothing out to the public? And they went and looked, and the last fella's hands that they passed through before they got released to the public, fuck, what's his name? James
What's the
something.
name? An employee.
He was an employee of Twitter, but he was a former employee of the FBI. And they think that he was a
Ah,
plant put into the Twitter organization by the FBI as a
with a
kind
black
of a
marker
go-between. And he put the black marker on all of the
or
stuff. And
Tipex.
immediately Elon found what he was talking about, what he had redacted from what was released, fired him, and people were able to then use the old version without FBI stuff and the new version with FBI stuff, because there were huge dumps of files, to be able to find exactly what your man wanted hidden. And it was like this crazy shit. Like the
Holy
FBI
shit.
and all of these politicians working with Twitter to change the public narrative, to quieten stories that were damaging to, Biden and that cohort of people. And then to like go and find people who were collaborating, they were reading people's DMs, which they promised they weren't doing. They were shadow banning people, which they promised that they weren't doing. Shadow banning is like when you think you're posting and you used to get like 10,000 likes, now you're only getting like 1,200 likes. You've been shadow banned, like you've been unofficially removed from view for like the majority of your followers or
Yeah,
whatever.
I was there before, and somebody told me you pretty much had to type in my full name
Yeah,
to find me.
that's the thing. So like they were doing this to a whole load of people, and people were like, "Oh, Twitter's not working the same," and it became like uncomfortable or not productive to use, so they just stopped using it. And that was what the people who ran Twitter wanted. They just wanted their own people all using it, sniffing each other's farts and fucking rubbing each other's dick shafts. And now that Elon's taken over, he said this is not happening and released all these Twitter files, and it's fucking blowing the place up. But still, it's not getting as much coverage.
No,
Do you
it's
know
not.
how much child exploitation? Like, you could literally go onto Twitter, and if you were of the proclivity to do so, you could get child porn like right on Twitter.
What?
Yeah. videos of child exploitation, pictures and images being shared in DMs, all this kind of stuff.
Fuck.
300,000 images and videos living on the Twitter servers. Like, there was accounts that were sharing them out and they weren't being banned. They were being reported but not being banned. And then there was a whole bunch of people that worked at Twitter that had gone through the review process of these accounts as they'd been reported and went, no, there's nothing wrong with that. So obviously
What?
they're like pedo sympathizers, you know? So Elon was like, no, he's banned like hundreds of thousands of accounts, like all these bots and all these things that are sharing out stuff. Mad shit, man. So much porn on Twitter and people don't realize it. Like, and then all this fucking child exploitation stuff. There's a woman called Eliza Blue, ELIZABLEU, and she's like the head campaigner for this type of thing. Like she's coming out. She's done spaces with Elon and with other people, like the spaces, like the live chats or whatever, like the shared live chats on Twitter. And she's having these things explaining like what's going on and how it's done and how the bad stuff is disseminated around Twitter. And it's like Elon's learning and his team are removing that stuff, but it was allowed to live there for years under the old regime. And you're like, how is that allowed to have happened? And why wasn't anybody asking questions of the old regime? Like,
What's the recourse now? Like, I mean, okay, shit, fucking filthy fucking accounts or whatever, but actually tilting an election, I mean, what would be the recourse of that? Or will there be any, like,
well,
or be like, no, 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 we
they
won't
don't
do it
know.
again?
They don't know. Like, does
There
that
won't
mean
be a fucking any. That's the problem.
does
Like,
that mean Biden is not the real president and the QAnon people are all fucking, we were right? Like, in a way, they kind of were right because, like, election interference was the dirty word and we weren't allowed to talk about it. Like, you were getting banned off Instagram if you were talking about anything after January 6th, which became this big bad, boogeyman of political action. That it was like, this generation's 9/11. I was like, no, 9/11 is this generation's 9/11. It's not that
yeah.
fucking long ago. But like trying to liken January 6th to that, I think is very like pearl clutching and overzealous and histrionic. You know, they don't need to fucking make it any worse than it was. It was, yeah. I won't go into it, but basically any coverage of that in a positive light, we're having people all banned on Twitter. But they think that the people organised by sending each other DMs. There's also like FBI DMs being sent. People who, like, there was lads like who were undercover FBI who were dealing with other undercover FBI, and both of them didn't know they were undercover, DMing each other on Twitter. Like, it's fucking crazy, man, the amount of stuff he found. And you'd pay 44 billion for that alone. But
Yeah,
there's
you
no
would.
way that they'd undo the election results because of this material. But there definitely should be an inquiry. There definitely should be a bunch of people publicly like held out and been like, this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, and they'll never work in government again. But to be honest, I think they'll just be like the priests back in the day, and they'll just be moved to a different parish, different department in the government, and you'll fucking never hear from them again.
Oh yeah, because I mean, it would rattle the foundations of the whole thing. And keep the status quo. Don't be fucking around with it, because heaven forbid we'd have to fucking rewrite everything again, because this would undermine everything that's gone on in the
Yeah.
last 3 years. Like wow. The
It's
fact that they
crazy.
were,
And that's only a tiny slice, Tom. Like, the amount of stuff that's there is phenomenal. Like,
if I was Elon, I'd be, yeah, I'd find a mountain, I'd hollow it out,
yeah.
and I'd move in there for a couple of months,
Hank
because
Scorpio style.
Hank Scorpio style is right. Holy sweet mother of Jesus. Well, that was an absolutely delicious bit. And I would encourage anybody, if you want to get in contact, if we're completely wrong, if you want to have any advice on it, it would fall on total deaf ears, to be truth be told. But
I'll see you in
but
the library.
yeah, but if you do, if you haven't subscribed to those conspiracy guys, and if you like some of the juicy, this is only all this was just just the top off the fucking shoulder. This is only off the shoulder of
Just a
what
kicker
Gordo.
tickle.
Gordo goes conspiratorial. He goes full frontal. With 5 to 9, the last podcast I recorded with Gordo was it. It came in at, we were in situ. Mickey Bartlett was the man, he was fraying at the edges, but I was still going hot at 9 hours.
I think 9.
I
Yeah.
was. Yeah, we came up on 9 hours, and I was figuring I've got another hour in me. Like, so.
Yeah, you find the strength from somewhere, man. It's comes from a place deep down, you know.
That's where you need to go if you liked if you like the just tickle, and I think more and more people, I think conspiracy theory is a wrong. Conspiracy is a good word, but conspiracy theory is nearly wrong these days because, as you have shown with so many of your fucking episodes, this shit actually is conspiracy reality. Is
Yeah,
where
but
we need
sure.
to be fucking
Aliens are
conspiracy.
UFOs are real. The CIA killed JFK. Like these are all real things from 2022. Like the Queen literally was a hologram for a minute. Like conspiracies leaking into the real world, man. It's happening, and I don't know how I feel about it because I'm like, uh, let's go back into history, will we? Because this shit's happening too quick. I'm running out of conspiracies. I'm not. I'll never
Yeah,
run out
because
of conspiracies. Never. I
I
just
mean,
say
when
they're all coming
when this
true.
well, basically Gordo and the Simpsons. That's basically where you need to just go back to Simpsons and Gordo. He just extrapolates the
uh,
fucking what they do, what they put up in front of you, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So,
I'm looking forward to
man,
seeing
this
what
has
the next
been
year comes with all of those stories. Like, there's a lot of those things that are just a little tip off. They're probably the biggest things of 2022, but they're by no means done with. A lot of them have
no,
like far-reaching implications, and hopefully, there's not so much fucking faff and so much Amber Heard shit in the bed stories next year, so that we can have the time to fucking decompress all of this information and consume it and have it sit and digest. Like what we're doing is fucking eating 3 pizzas and then going and then having a horribly painful shite and then going, I
yeah,
never do that again, and then 5 months later doing it again. Like it's too much for a lot of people, and you either go mental or you switch off. You go hard or you go home. And with the 2 years previous, a lot of people just went, fuck it, I'm out. And that's the worst thing. Like even being overwhelmed is better than being switched off, do you know? Because if you're switched off to it, that's exactly where the people who want to be able to make you do stuff, that's where they want you to be. Because if you're switched off and you have no impetus, you have no direction, you have to go somewhere. There's no stopping. You can't stop. But like if you've no direction, you'll be moved. Do you know? So I'd
yeah,
rather
yeah,
move
yeah, yeah.
myself than be moved by others.
Like a stubborn cow,
Yeah.
like a stubborn Christmas cow. Gordo, the advice that you have bestowed upon us over the last, I don't know how long we've been speaking. It's been absolutely glorious. I couldn't think of a better way of closing off the year than hanging out with you to
Yeah, man.
terrify the masses to a degree. But there was one or two giggly bits in between there.
I'm
So,
sure.
but
I'm
regardless,
sure. What the
it
fuck?
was me that chose these subjects,
Yeah,
and I needed
no.
them fucking either debunked or bunked,
I
one or the
know,
other.
yeah.
And you did it
Fucking,
all for me.
we
So
bunked a few of them. I like. It's very hard to make comedy of it if it wasn't. That's all just from memory of like the year. I was like, oh shit! I took like 4 Alpha Brain, and I was like, work memory, like trying to fucking log into shit, like and remembering cunts' names and dates and shit that happened. But like when you think about that year, you're like, holy shit! Did that all happen in 1 year? And that
I
was
know.
just like 15 topics. There's so much more, you know. But thanks
Yeah.
for having me on, man. I'm very happy to share the Christmas. We're in Christmas week now, so it's all fucking head down for the final, and it's good to chat with you again.
Well, thank you very, very much. For anybody, again, once more time, if you hadn't listened to what I said throughout this, go subscribe to those conspiracy guys. There is Jesus Christ. There's literally 1,000 hours of fucking stuff there, and there's Patreon fucking. If you can't, if you can't get enough of that, go join the Patreon. You'll see my face pop up on a regular fucking basis over there. I'm probably one of the most frequent mustachioed people in your
For
property.
sure. I'm coming
Um,
back next year for some more goodness.
Oh, some more goodness. I can't fucking wait for it. Gordo, this has been 2022
Yes, man.
till early 2023. Till I see you again. Thank you very much.
Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Happy Christmas.